In podcast, game episode now. Let's go. This is the Imperial Scrolls of Honor podcast. I'm Josh Folan.
And I'm Jay Baxtron.
And we are going to be bullshitting about the formative years of console gaming as we revisit the periodicals that covered it again. We are more than meets the eye as we plow through GamePro issue 15 in this episode. Link to the issue is in the show notes, as it always is. Please rate and review the podcast. If you post it, we'll read it here. Give us validation and self-worth, or ridicule us as long as it's funny. And what are we jamming on now? Jay, what are you jamming on now? Very little, you said. That's pros and cons to that, I suppose.
Yeah, sad days. Nah, just busyness with work and just kids being sick, having to take care of them. But, fitting in a little age 2 here and there, always throwing in some skirmishes and trying out some different win components like racing to wonders and things like that. So still loving that game. And then a little bit of, as usual, Halo Infinite, which, funny enough, Season 3 released. They got some new maps, some new weapons, and I've been kicking ass lately, man. Like, I'm talking like 26 kill, 5 death, like 10 assist type matches. I don't know if there's less people playing or I'm just not good. I'll take it, but I've been loving that.
Season 3. So is that like a per year they do a season?
No. It's been less frequent than that because it has not been out that long, so it's been like a few months per season. I don't know what the cadence is, but yeah, this new one definitely has like some new maps, even like new big team maps, new weapons, some new like mods you can use within the battles, and that's been kind of fun. So any variability, get my competitive juices flowing, I'll take that. But that's pretty much it, man. What about you? What have you been jamming on these days? More VR, I see.
I got the thing behind me we'll definitely talk about here in a second. The most pressing discussion topic, though, is no question the new Walkabout Jammy Jam that came out on the 9th. Second to last day in Atlanta, so I was it's so funny. We wrapped the night before. I told you this because we got a chance to play earlier this week, this and missed, to fully catch up on Walkabout course releases. But yeah, it dropped the day before I was leaving Atlanta, and that meant the day after we wrapped. So it could not have been more perfect. We wrapped on the 8th, and then working from the B&B on the 9th, and flew back on the 10th. So yeah, the first thing I'm doing is I'm waking up to see if the download's there and getting it going, so when I have the time to sit down and fire it up, I'm not waiting for that update dance that you had to wait for.
Oh man,
and it's funny too. Perfectly logical that every time they add a course, the file gets bigger. But it's up to this game was originally like less than a gigabyte, and now it's up to 3.25 or something. For every update, because they're adding a new course, and that's a whole new thing. Every time. So. It's funny to watch that progression. Anyways, it's hands down the most detailed and awesome 3D environment Mighty Coconut has built for this game. It's NYC, it's not NYC, but it's NYC. Yeah, even especially you start that first hole you start in the subway, I was pointing those things out to you.
All the maps, man, you could see the lines, the red line, the blue line. It was very distinct, very New York subway.
Yeah, and the turnstiles are spot on MTA turnstiles. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot of things, and in big city, there's certainly things that it could apply. I've actually heard, I read something that the coffee shop is directly modeled after an Austin coffee shop, so it's not supposed to be all NYC. At least if that's true, I suppose. I certainly don't know it to be actual fact, but I'm pretty sure the Let's Talk Oculus guys mentioned that, having read it somewhere or something when they were covering the course this week. Yeah, it's everything is kind of, everything, as the name suggests, upside down, and it's just it takes the whole city and kind of jams it together in a really creative way. And there's just, on top of just a cool overall design, the actual granular detail, I think, is considerably higher than any of the previous courses. There's just so much little shit and little really cool animations. There's the rat pulling the pizza slice I showed you in the one hole. You see the rat and it like jerks the pizza into a mouse hole nearby. And there's a lot of just cool shit like that. Animations. The pigeons are alive and stuff. And like if the ball flies by, they'll fly away. But they don't always fly away. Like if you don't have something catalyze them, they'll just stay there and do pigeon shit, So it's cool that it's not like it's cool that it's not like a a preset animation. It's responding to the world, and that's really cool. Same with the rat. The rat cues when you look at it. You have to see it before its animation starts. It's not just running in a loop over there or something,
Which is cool.
So it's
awesome.
Yeah, very, very, very cool. And actually, the Let's Talk Oculus guys mentioned there's a turtle somewhere in the water, and I haven't even found that, So there's just a lot. There's a ton of shit to find in both the hard and easy courses that are just fun little Easter eggs. Is probably speaking too highly of them, but just fun little things that are there to add to the experience, and that's really fun.
I will say, to their design credit, I hate the fact that they have all those balls that you can go find, because like afterwards, I was itching. I was like, do I need to buy all these freaking courses? Because I want the balls now. Like I got to collect all the little shiny. Give me all the little shiny babies. I need them all.
I don't know how. I would definitely buy it, even for the one. Amy, same thing. She'll play it and she doesn't buy them all. She'll play on my guest pass, and it's like, there's no way I could buy. And she even she goes and finds them. She still that is such a good testament actually. To what Walkabout has created, or what Money Coconut has created, is she hunts for the ball on every hole, even though she can't get it, because you can't see it, which is also very smart by them, that it's not just gone and you can see it, you just can't pick it up, So she hunts for each one and talks shit if it's one that I haven't found, So yeah, it's yeah, they have invented a very cool mechanic there. And yeah, there's no way that's a funny thing too, just talking about the cumulative growth of the game, So the game was whatever I paid, $14.99 or something when I first got it, and that was, I don't even know if there were any DLC courses yet. But, I've been paying $2.99 a pop. They upped them to $3.99, I think, for this one. This is the first one that was $3.99 instead of $2.99. So, like, you do the math, and this is getting to be like it seems like small little meaningless increments, but like they've dropped so many DLC, and I'm not at all suggesting that the value isn't there, but it's just it's gotta be now. I mean, what is it? Did they have 10? Because the most expensive game I bought is Resident Evil 4, and that was $39.99, and I got that with that coupon that I got from referring you, but. Regardless of
You're
that,
welcome.
you should get that game too. It's a great game. But
this dude at poker last night was telling me about the game. He was playing it, like that legit
Resident Evil
game.
4.
Yeah, he was saying how like on the Oculus, he was like, "Oh, I love it so much." Like he was,
it's so good, dude. I told you, man, the mechanics it's so good with the gunplay and stuff. It's so fucking good. But yeah, anyways, they the game has become. I have to sit and do the math, but at least $30 now. I've at least doubled the cost. More than there's more than 5. So probably, if not the most expensive game on my Oculus, very close. Although that's not taking
so much, though.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. No. Again, I'm not even at all undermining the value or saying that it is not worth what I paid. I'm simply saying, what started as a very small investment, because of they've generated so much or created so much content for it, that it's become maybe the most expensive. Although that's not taken into account, because I bought all the shit. The location drops for the fishing game they're way more expensive for sure, and I probably ended up, I think that was $20 to start. That's probably closer to $50 too. So it's between those two for sure. But I've also played those two easily most of any of the games on there, just because they have so much shit to do in them. Yeah. But so that's fucking great. But I fucking hate the putt-putt play in this course. It's Teddy. I told you, Teddy Station on steroids. If you play Walkabout, you know what that means. It's like a bunch of dumb shit instead of just putt-putt, It's not based on putt-putt skill. It's based on some other sort of like bullshit, either luck, which is really suck, or just much more high variance mechanics, having to have these, you're bouncing balls all over the place, and there's just, I don't give a shit how good you are at putt-putt. It's just more, it's not as skill based. It's just not.
Yeah.
So I fucking hate that aspect about it. And yeah, I mean, the Labyrinth course, if you haven't played this one yet, it's like the Labyrinth course, the one with the steps, where it goes up onto the wall, and then you're whacking at it like not like a putt-putt stroke, Like I was saying, it'll be really cool. And it's funny too, the Let's Talk Oculus guys brought this up, and same exact idea. Like, there should be a way, at least an option. And I get that the physics, or who knows, or whatever, how difficult this is. I don't know shit. But the ability at least to be able to play it where you are able to change your gravity with the ball. So next time, once it moves to another plane, you also have some ability to still hit it like a fucking putt-putt stroke, or a putter stroke. So yeah, I hate that. Like the stuff on the ceiling and the walls, you get better at it, and it's not it's not as horrific as it feels at first. But at first, it's like, fuck off,
Dude, that's why when you had me flying in, trying to like figure out how to do that on the side, after doing it once, I was like, that was far too much work for this. I'm just gonna.
Well, also that's a perfect example. There's so much about all the courses. It is you develop the skill. I mean, and like in the calculable flying to get a better shot is also part of just getting good with the UI and the fucking and the way the game works. Like, right. I can do that almost instantly now. It is still a little, it's not perfect because you are talking about just not glitching up onto the platform when you fly in like that. But yeah, it is, you get used to that shit. But yeah, generally, I mean, it's that shit every fucking hole for the most part. And it's not like, it's wildly inventive and creative, and I would never knock someone for trying to do some shit outside the box, especially with an IP. Like I said, it's not like this is like their first course drop and like they're it's all fucked up, a completely different experience. Like they've done a million of these, and they were trying with this one to do something unique and different. And like I feel that, I support it, but I probably won't play this one a ton, especially on my own. Like this is one that's much more fun to play with. Oh, they're all much more fun to play with someone else, of course. Right. But this one in particular, I think, is built for multiplayer because that variance is more fun in a multiplayer setting. That variance when you're playing by yourself, you don't fucking want that. It's not fun. When you're playing by yourself, you're trying to competitively get the best fucking score humanly possible, and that is, or even the quick match, same thing. Like. If you're playing, that's usually like a competitive minded idea, whereas the two of us, like it doesn't fucking matter who wins, we're just fucking around and hanging out in VR. So cool idea, but I don't want a bunch of these. I want the next one to be back to putt-putt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other big thing is, yes, I got this one. Did I get it before I left for Atlanta? I don't think so. I think I downloaded Atlanta, but Perispera VR. So I guess this is on other platforms, so this is not a unique to Quest release. It was ported to this, but this is Civ on Mars in VR, and Civilization, I mean. Or it's the Alpha Centauri, if you're Civ lineage savvy enough to know that futuristic strategy joint from, would have been the early aughts, I think. When that was released, but that's a really cool game. I actually downloaded that. I'm sure I've talked about it on here. I downloaded that on Good Old Games or something and actually have that as well. But this is, of course, in VR, and it is fucking good. Holy shit, is it good. It's like the gameplay is great. The music, it's I can't believe I think of any strategy game I've ever played, it is the one that the music is most such a big part of the experience. It's like the one of the main gameplay tracks is, they're all pretty upbeat, but it, like, I don't know, hearing that or thinking that, it wouldn't necessarily, that isn't the most intuitive vibe for a sim strategy game in my expectation. Like this really upbeat, like borderline techno type shit. In a game where you're just building logistic nodes, And that's the thing too. It's not in that it's different than Civ in that you're building. Civ is more of a Age of Empires 2. Like right there, you can see the picture behind you. It's like you're building buildings. It's more of a 3D model of an actual space. Where this, they're almost just icons. I mean, if you can zoom down to like a micro level and see a relatively real-time version of this,
That seems worse.
Of what's
the icons?
It seems it, but if you play the game, you have to play so much of it at a more pulled out level that what's happening down there doesn't matter. It's irrelevant because you are a much more macro perspective entity. The controlling entity is much more about making a bigger picture work than little tiny individual situations. Which honestly, that's the thing. I'm kind of off of it right now. This week I had something come up that I'll get to that, but when I'm pulled into the micro on this, it's less good. It's much better as this bigger perspective thing. But anyways, that music is fucking perfect fucking motivation for because it's like this constant, this really that's there. Like the thing I talked about that I hate about because it's real time. It's not turn based. So the thing I hate about those is this it's fucking exhausting. I can't keep up with this, or I don't want to keep up with it, And this, and they all have this, I'm sure, but variable speed settings. And the first speed setting is so slow that it's just not too much. It's not, where I'm honestly clicking it up to 4 times most often. And that's a cool thing too. And I actually didn't write this down. A great idea. Whenever anything happens in the game of note, it's almost kind of annoying sometimes, but it's probably smart that it's there. It clicks it back down to first speed. So whenever anything happens that maybe you got to deal with or could have changed something where maybe you need to take a fucking second and reassess a bigger picture, it clicks it back down to 1 speed. So, a whole bunch of shit doesn't fly by that you can't deal with or it's too late to deal with, So I think that was probably a pretty smart design decision that I hadn't even thought of up to now. But it's a campaign. It has a campaign mode to it that I think is definitely the optimal way to play. It also has a sandbox thing where you can kind of just fuck around and build, I think. But the campaign mode is really, really fucking smart and well done in that you are assuming control of this new artificial consciousness that has been developed to spearhead the terraforming and colonization of Mars after countless attempts by humans, manned human missions to do so that have failed, right? So the technology of this consciousness is so cutting edge or new or whatever that a lot of the story in the campaign mode is the development of you as a sentient being. So you're finding meaning in these actions that you only started doing because they were directives. So you're becoming self-aware is the thing. So you're working through this moral compass development of the things you're being directed to do. And there's all this, there's a bunch of shit happening back on Earth that complicates your directives and who they're coming from and the moral compass that comes along with someone else telling you to do something that you're not sure is the right thing, and you working through that, and there's also, once it starts to actually once you actually start to colonize and a sizable population develops on Mars, you then have a whole new set of people that have different wants, needs, desires, and priorities than those back on Earth that sent you here originally. So now you have these, so it is a really, I think, smart way to do what at its core is just this strategy building game. That also was, that part of it is amazing too. There's so, they're trying to describe, it's just, there's technology, all the things are there. The technology trees, the different types of buildings, the development of them, upgrading buildings. It's, it's all fucking there. And, but it has this shell that's fueling you that is, I think, I've never seen in a game like this that makes it really, really fucking interesting. And there is combat, and that's the thing I said that, pushed me into this real-time thing that is less fun. Like trying to, when, it's all drone-based shit, and like you're like trying to scramble your drones and like fucking the drone these things, and that part of it I don't enjoy as much, and I'm in a part now that's like a little overwhelming. I don't. Who knows what the percentage is? It doesn't give you a percentage or anything, but who knows how far into this campaign mode I am? But I'm pretty far into it, no question. Plenty of time logged, lots of time logged, and yeah, that part of it I'm not digging at all. But I zero doubt that I'll fucking work through it and get back into it at some point or another. So that's a big one. And then there's another one. The only other thing I got is the Watch Out for Fireballs guys podcast they covered this game called The Coin Game on Steam. Have you heard of this?
The Coin Game? No.
Yeah, it's only on Steam. It's not on any platforms or any consoles, rather.
What is it?
Okay, so it
sounds basic.
it sounded so and like a Steam game. Like I don't play games on Steam. I don't. And actually, this is a perfect example of how much I don't do this. Like, my first fiddling with the game went pretty poorly because of control shit, because I downloaded it, and I was like, okay, I'm going to port this onto my TV via HDMI cable and just sit back with an Xbox controller Wi-Fi'd in to my laptop and play. And you have to have a keyboard also to play this game. Like, the Xbox controller controls you, but there's too much shit going on with it that you need a keyboard for that it doesn't work. There's just too many inputs that you need to do to make this work. So yeah, I didn't even know how, my point being, I didn't even really know how to interface with it. That's how little I play fucking PC first person type things. And that's what it is. It's a first person open world game where you play as a kid in a small 80s town, like a rural 80s town, and you have to both, like, your core objective is to play arcade games. You want to go to the arcades. There's multiple of them in the game, to my understanding.
Of course.
Right. So that's your core objective. So to sustain that primary objective, you also need to keep yourself alive / funded with money to be able to play the arcade game. So, and again, I only listened to like the spoiler half of the podcast, so I just kind of know like the broad nuts and bolts. And like I said, I didn't get very far when I tried it. But you have to like do chores and like keep your mom happy, be home by curfew, find snacks to eat so you don't die, and you have you go to the arcade and like really play these arcade games. Like they're actually like games that'll be in arcades, and a lot of them are like the idea is you're trying to get like a Chuck E. Cheese environment where you're trying to get the tickets to trade them in for shit that you want. So a lot of them, I think there's also kind of straightforward arcade games too, like cabinet games, but a lot of them are the fucking like all those type games where you get the tickets from
whack-a-mole,
right,
those kind of things.
Right,
okay.
Right. So it takes that open world concept and just does a really fun application of it, and to boot, it's a single person developer that like the whole development of the game has happened in beta and out in the world. And, so it's just like there's just so much TLC in it. You can see all the quirky charm things that come with a single developer that like he doesn't have to answer to fucking anyone, and he can do whatever the fuck he wants with it. And you can see that there's just so much of that there. Like one like throw off example, you're at your house, you have a fish tank too that are pets, which is kind of straightforward. But he also has a goose that's just wandering free in the house that like, and the goose responds to you and shit, it's like, so it's just.
That's so random.
Right. And like, one of the things I was able to do was sit down and watch the TV in the living room, and there's like shit on the TV that you use the remote and click through commercials and stuff, and some of it tells you about things in the game, whatever, things in town that you should go explore or whatever. But no, like the tonality of those commercials is of course hilarious. So there's just there's just a lot of charm with it, and I hope I can get past the shitty controls. Or my shitty experience of the controls enough to get into it, because I think there's a really fun game here, or a really fun idea. I don't know if the game's fun yet, but yeah, and you can get like a paper route. You can get like all the things that kids do for money, paper routes, and I'm trying to think what some of the other
cut
ones.
Grass or something.
Right? Yeah, shit like that. Just do chores around town for people and stuff to get dough to go play the arcade games. And there's multiple arcades that you unlock or can get to eventually, and they of course have bigger, better games. It's just
get me to the mall, man.
Right. I'm almost sure that is one of the latter ones that you can get to. Yeah. So yeah, it's there's a lot there, but I have yet to fully broach it. So we shall see. But it sounds like a pretty cool thing, and certainly I think it was not. $15. I think it was to buy. So that's for a full game. If there is a full game there, and it seems like there is, that's a pretty reasonable price. I think there's he does it's. Like I said, it's all happened out in the open, so there's like it's like, and you could tell that with the Watch Out for Fireballs guys talking about it. Like they're like rooting for this game to work and be, get out there, and there's just so much the guy has put into it, and he's been so transparent about the development process of it that people are like rooting for it. So he has on top, you can download the game, but there's also this completely. It's called like the supporter pack or something. It's all like nothing. You don't need it to play. Like nothing adds to the game in like a
tangible way.
Right. It's all
your gameplay.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's all cosmetic shit that you can get, like some extra shit for you. You have a smartwatch, and there's some extra shit in that, and like just some shit in your room or something. This is like so people can pay an extra $5 to help.
I see.
Keep him fucking not dying himself. So he can keep working on the game if you want to support it at that level. So it's just like I don't know. That's a testament. It's just a different kind of way to do it, and you'd love to see that shit work if he can make it work. So
love to see
pretty cool.
Indie dev love.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay, let's talk about GamePro.
The title theme from Journey to Silius on the NES, bringing us into this scary issue of GamePro.
Maybe Halloween spooktacular we're diving into here. So this is October 1990. It's a Halloween issue. $3.95 US, $4.95 Canadian dollars, $2.50 UK pounds to pick this up off a newsstand at the time. And the cover is fiddly adorned with illustrations of all the usual Universal Monster movie stalwarts: Frankenstein's monster, Dracula, Wolfman, Hunchback, a witch, etc. So on and so forth, as well as two. Wolfman is probably my favorite of them. I think I like his vibe.
Yeah, I don't know. Frankenstein's pretty standard.
Yeah, yeah, they're all fun. Good job illustration, or illustrator, I should say. Tales from the Crypt is the accompanying top headline. The initial season of the OG iteration of that show on HBO first popped off in June of '89 and was a fucking hit. So a little over a year later, seeing this I think as a common pop culture reference, tracks very well, in my opinion.
Although, I will say, I looked at this and I'm like, where is that? Is there a game? Tales from the Crypt game. I want to see it. Sell me false advertising here, GamePro.
Right, yeah, I can't believe there wasn't one. And they were actually, that was one of, I posted this as all the covers I do on our social shit, and that was like one of the people talking about the show and like how there wasn't a game, or there was some sort, there wasn't a game, but there was something that fucking, was close enough to that it was topical. I can't remember what the fuck it was now, but yeah, the fact that there wasn't a game is at the time.
That's the first thing
the fact
I
there wasn't.
see.
Yes, let's constrict it to the fact that there wasn't an NES game is crazy. Yes, because obviously NES was the biggest shit there is as far as games go, and that was just a huge IP. I mean,
they could have slapped together anything, and I would have
right. And it would have sold. Yeah, for sure. Right. Yeah. So I wanted to ask: was this show a big thing for you as a kid?
Absolutely, man. Like it was terrifying, but it was great. Like it was a show that I absolutely was into. So like when I see this, when I looked at this issue immediately, I thought like, oh shit! I thought of the show, and I'm like, is there a game? Because like that show was such a big thing. Like the slick monster. Oh my gosh! Like it just has another level of terror.
Yeah, no, the hostess and the Crypt Keeper, the host is incredible. Such an incredible character. Yeah, I mean, I didn't have cable. We've covered this many times on the pod, let alone premium cable in HBO. So this fell in that realm of mysterious television wonders I could only dream of having regular access to. Like you can't do that on television. Double Dare, USA Cartoon Express, and the like. These things were to me mythical creatures out in a world I could not be. I was not part of.
I'm aware. If we ever get a time machine, we got to take you back and just like adjust some things just so you can experience.
I'm aware. That's probably a great idea outside of just the television, but for sure, I would have loved to have had access. Yeah, I mean, I know, like my uncle had a cheater box for cable, so I remember going over there, and this is even kind of a little bit later, not really, certainly not when it was in its original. Well, that show was on for a while too, so it could have been in its original run, just later of it. But the early stages of it, for sure. Like I think catch him over there, and I think he maybe recorded some of them, so there was like a VHS tape I could watch of some of them. And they're just. Yeah. It was so good, like those, and then the creep shows too, which were very closely parallel to this.
Yeah.
Like those are two of my favorite movies ever. The first one in particular is so incredible, and they're very much the same vibe. So yeah, they were just to me like, I don't know, what do you call that? Like the Mount Rushmore of things that I couldn't have as a kid that I wanted so badly. Yeah, so good.
It's funny because I think about that now, like. We definitely don't let our kids watch that same level of scary at that age. So I'm thinking of all the terrifying things that I saw during that. Yeah, we definitely don't.
Oh, dude, I've told you like the Pet Cemetery.
Oh,
I can't even get into that house anymore because fucking my pops died, but like. Well into adulthood, there was a window in the bathroom that I saw the dude who got hit by the semi-truck in Pet Cemetery in one night in the figment of my imagination when I was like, I don't know, fucking 8 or something. And well into adulthood, I could not stand in front of that window at night with the blinds open because it was that impactful of a psychological experience, of just something that was a figment of my imagination from seeing it, let alone the actual visceral things that are shown in movies like that, and maybe whether or not debatable whether a kid should be experiencing that. Like, it's crazy shit. And I just started. I found that thing I posted about the what is the video game something foundation that's doing the random retro magazine subscription. It's kind of crazy. Like I thought when I first found that, I was like, oh man, $18.75 for a year of that? Fucking sign me up, And like once I got into it on the website, I'm like, oh, that's per month? Like I'm not gonna pay $20 a month for that. That's I want it, but like there's two things. I still want it, and the money, whatever. That's not that much money. But for what I think the value is basically there. But like what prevented me from doing it is I don't want to hoard old magazines, which is exactly what that becomes. You know, I'm not going to throw those away, especially if I'm paying $20 a pop for them. You're keeping them.
Absolutely.
And not all of them are going to be worth keeping. And then I'm just going to have a big collection of shit I don't need. And I do everything in my power to avoid bringing that into my life and attracting that, you know. But anyways, they have a podcast and I started listening to that, and they were talking about something on there about what the fuck was some topic where they were talking about how kids, kids would come home from school and just leave till dark. They just their parents don't know where they went. They don't have any guidance, any way to track them, keep tabs, nothing.
In the neighborhood.
They're just gone, man. Just gone doing whatever the fuck you wanted as like an 8-year-old. Like no guidance, which is so far from anything that would ever happen today, you know, at least in most households. I'm sure it still happens, but certainly not as prominently. And yeah, the way they worded it was just so funny. They were like, he's like, yeah, like, you know, oh, you know what? This is actually the Stuff You Should Know podcast. This was not the Video Game Foundation podcast, but that's a good podcast too. Both are good podcasts. But they were talking about, the Stuff You Should Know podcast did an arcade games episode that I highly recommend this past week. But yeah, they were saying how they, you know, like the way he worded it was, you know, like, sure, some bad things would happen every now and again and would become a big thing, but it didn't change anything. Like, kids just kept going, and like there was no, you know, it was just a different time. Like, you know, yeah, like every now and again, a kid got abducted or something, and then maybe that made a new PSA happen on fucking Saturday morning cartoons. But other than that, like, they just let it fucking fly, let it ride.
Something happened 3 towns over. Like, just make sure, like, you don't talk to strangers, right? Okay, good. See you later. You know?
Yeah, okay, bye. Okay, bye.
Carry on.
Yeah, fucking wild, man. Just a wild, different mentality for the whole world. Justifiably so. The world's way more fucked up now. Below that, they point out a creature feature starring Castlevania 3, Frankenstein, Beetlejuice, Drax Night Out, and that last one sounds really fun. I think we saw a peep of that in the preview for the last episode, and I was like, ooh, that's a cool title I've never seen before. Drax Night Out sounds fun as fuck. But Bury Yourself in the Coolest New Carts is next after that, and they highlight Mondu's Fight Palace, Wizardry, Ashido, Dragon's Curse, Mercenary Force, Dragon's Lair, DuckTales, and then Let's Rock is last, and they subtitle that with Turn Your Nintendo into One Mean Music Machine. They also pimp out their tips hotline lastly here.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. Moving into the innards of the mag, they kick off almost as always with a Taito ad, and this one is the full pager for Dungeon Magic and then Target Renegade. We've seen both of these already. Both are good though and fun. And EA has a new banger for their hotly anticipated Skate or Die sequel, Skate or Die 2: The Search for Double Trouble. And this is a pretty big deal ad in my opinion. It's a live action photo of a hardcore skater den with a few bodacious dudes doing cool skater dude shit in their cool skater dude den. And all around the periphery of the ad are various tubular sentences of the time and culture, some of which are alluding to things that can be done in the game and some not. We have the ones I noticed that I wanted to highlight were learn rad tricks, buzz buff Beach Boys, score killer decks, and rock out. You know, so they're just some alliteration, some not, just anything they could do to I don't know, just capture that fucking LA skater thing going on of the time. Another thing too, that was like, again, we've talked about the skateboard shit before, but like, you know, that was just so far from where I was geographically and culturally in rural Ohio that, you know, but it was appealing.
It was definitely like TV culture to me.
Right.
Like, rescue the torrid babe, slam homeboy punks. Like, it was definitely like stuff that was California stuff, I guess.
And right, yeah. So that's probably going to be an episode of 90210 that I'll watch. Like one of these topics is definitely an episode of 90210. I just watched the dude. You gotta. This is a random thing that just popped in my mind, but we use 90210. There's this guy Mike Camingolo or something like that. He's a Twitter, Instagram dude, and he does these breakdowns. These like he like takes a piece of video. He does a lot with movies. He also does a lot with sports, and he'll take a clip of. I found him doing Josh Allen videos mostly, where a player just does some crazy ass shit and he'll commentate it, but from a very, very outlandish funny perspective, and he's very, 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 very good at it. But he does it with movies too, movies and TV shows. And he just did one of it's like the opening scene of an episode of the original 90210, and it's Brandon fucking Jason Priestley. It's like he called it like the most egregious offensive pass interference ever. They're playing backyard football, and he has this like egregious pass interference where he like throws the guy down to streak open, and like, you know, they have like the slow-mo of the dude throwing the ball, and they're all wearing hilarious like of the time athletic wear. You know, it's just such 90s TV hardcore after school type shit that you would see a Saved by the Bell / 90210 type thing, you know, like, yeah, this exact thing could just so easily happen with Zach and Slater. It's just so archetype, you know, beautiful. But he does it, you know, he does a breakdown of it. It's fucking hilarious. Highly recommend looking at it. Michael, I said Mike Kamingley or some shit like that. If you tell you, it will not be hard to Google, I'm sure, without the actual name being right. But yeah, highly recommend if you want some good shitter fodder or something to watch on your phone. So this was released in September, the Skate or Die 2, and I don't think I can recall firing it up yet, so I did, and the title screen tune immediately cemented I had not. It was very memorable and good. From there, you were shown a rather wild slide. Did you play this?
I did. I can't get into it, man.
Oh no, it's not good, Jay. Like that's like, I don't know. It's like the most. It's a top 10 all time. Like everybody knows that about NES video games. That the sequel to Skate or Die was dog shit. But yeah, they show you this slideshow to set up the story, dude, and it is fucking bananas, man. It's like equates to a skateboarder causing some old lady's dog to get hit by a car, and they use the word splat to convey that happening off camera, which is hardcore, I think, being quite a rather ardent dog person. It's a little insensitive, I feel, for the, you know, but that happening leads to her initiating skateboarding becoming declared a menace to society and banned in this small town that they're in. And then from there you meet a bunch of edgy skateboard dudes and dudettes, you know, in the slideshow sequence, and then the game starts, and it's this side-scrolling action game that is nothing like the first installment of the game, which is just a bunch of skate park mini games that are, you know, also varying degrees, mostly to the lesser side of the spectrum of fun, you know, but it's at least more what a skateboarding game should, you know, which should be. And, you know, other than maybe the dude on the skateboard, I guess, like, that is present. You are on a skateboard, but you have a fucking gun. So you're like, shooting shit is definitely a thing, and fuck off. It's a skateboarding game. Like, that's terrible, you know? And yeah, I didn't get much further than a few seconds into it, and I was like, I think this sucks. Like, you know, like, there were a couple defenders of it when I was posting shit from it on the socials, man. So I don't know. It you know, again, probably mostly because of that culture shit we just covered in depth. Like, it probably hit some kids the right way and they stuck with it and got into it, but generally speaking, it's not a good game. I don't think. Same.
I was like, I have a weapon, I'm fighting, what am I doing? Like, I was just I had that same initial reaction, like, this is a no for me. Like, I can't. I wanted to like it because of the culture thing, because it's so widely known, because it's so popular. It has all the rad phrases and colors. You want to like it. Like, I wanted to like it, but I did not like it.
Yep. Unfortunate, but so it goes in retro video games. Table of contents after that, still doing that ridiculous cropping shit for the featured titles. When will it end? The shitty cropping of the Mondo's Fight Palace artwork has me excited for their full take on an illustration of that batshit insane fighting game we talked extensively about for Sega Visions 2 last, you know. Like, I saw that and I was like, I can't wait to see what this whole piece of art looks like. So that's probably the first time I've done that, looking at those shitty croppings, where I was like, ooh, I want to see more, which is what a table of contents little tidbits should be. There should be like, ooh, this is attracting me into that part of the magazine, you know? So I guess victory on that front, but whatever.
I will say I did have the same kind of like, is this Mandu? Like, what is happening? Yeah, like, I did kind of have, it caught my attention as well.
Yeah. And that's such a good example of what we kind of just poured over when we found that game in that mag. Like that, I just, again, I can't believe it missed. I can't believe it missed me. I can't believe it's not a bigger part of these, retro gaming zeitgeist. There's just so much about it that is just memorable. I can't believe it's not a bigger thing, At least, again, we could just have missed it, and it did happen. But again, that shit, I guess I'm speaking more from a modern perspective on that. Like, the fact that it doesn't cycle through all the fucking, that there aren't memes, and there aren't fucking Reddit posts, and there aren't shit posts of it constantly is kind of crazy to me. But from there, we get a full pager from Irem for their NES Puzzler Ode to Adventures of Lolo, Kickle Cubicle, and then a couple pages of Vic Tokai propaganda bullshit they're trying to disguise as editorial before we get a great 2-page spread from Acclaim for a dungeon crawler that dropped back in August called Swords and Serpents, and this is actually what I have behind me right now. There's a lot to say about this, and we'll start with the ad. There's lots of pointing out this is a 4-score NES satellite-enabled 4-player simultaneous jam, and Gauntlet 2 had that, and it's this kind of story world, but Gauntlet 2 is a completely different thing. The idea that this is a RPG-styled thing where the four of you and 3 buddies can sit down on a Friday night and take control of 4 party members in a deep RPG setting, that had to I can't believe. I didn't have the 4-player thing, even though Ted did. That was later on. But like when this would have been really cool. I don't think I had 3 friends I could have gotten together to play it either. Like that would have been into this kind of game. I mean, so there are many levels to why it did not happen for me. But the kids that were able to experience this in that way, it had to be so fucking cool. A really, really cool aspect that they took the development time and intent to make that a feature of a game like this was really, I think, forward thinking for the time.
Yeah, there's no chance I would have played this back in the day. Zero, just the way it looks. Like the map is cool. Like I freaking loved making burning the edges of paper and making maps like myself. Really? Are you kidding me? Like,
are you serious? How have you never mentioned this? And why? And Jay, why aren't you making? I've done that before too. I did that with I think for Dungeons and Dragons or something. I did that with things. Yeah, just how I'm literally in my bedroom over on carpet probably with a lighter I stole from my parents, burning fucking paper, with no
at
grass.
Least I was safer. I'm over the sink at least.
Okay. I probably
I need to quickly.
I was probably trying to do it incognito or something, and fucking probably this is a miracle I didn't set the house on fire, but. That's so fun. So I'm asking here, why then don't you make the maps, and why aren't you posting maps with burned edges then? Look, I just give the people what they want, Jay. Give the people what they want.
Seeing this in the mag though reminded me oh, that is so cool. Every time I see this is a fun thing that I.
That's great. That's great. That's so good.
But yeah, like seeing this grabs my attention, and it looks cool.
Oh yeah, the ad, it's fantastic. The whole ad design is.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's awesome, and it's Acclaim, so their marketing. They're all marketing. They rarely have an underlying piece of IP or a well-developed game with which to be marketing with such fucking great fever. But they
had some bangers later. Acclaim did mean good.
No, there's some, but not most times. No, I disagree. Most times not, but. It's a bunch of really cool story immersion copy written in stylized penmanship on unrolled parchment with kind of burnt / frayed worn edges. So and then there's a ton of cool illustrations on it as well as screenshots, and then the parchment itself was surrounded by a bunch of live action shit in the story world: candle keys, dagger, snake, axe, coins, jewels, etc. And to be honest, it kind of looks like they might have just used the same set as that Taito Dungeon Magic ad we have been seeing for a while now, and was earlier in the issue. Yeah, the snake. Yeah, the snake is the exact same boa constrictor. That's probably the snake you use in all ads, I guess. But
but I almost skipped past this ad. Everything looks cool about it, but like I kind of saw the art and like at least kind of glanced past this page first, thinking it was like a game we'd already seen.
The same thing
because of that. Yeah. Like I was like, oh, close. Cool art style, but then I was like, wait, I've seen that game. And kind of skipped over it until I kind of circled back. Like, wait, have I seen this before?
Yeah, but very, very, like, yeah, awesome fucking ad. And they mention in the copy, if you read it, they mention something called Zoom tubes in here. I never heard of those. So, anything medieval fantasy maybe I haven't heard before. Let's tell me more. I want to know more. But the game box is in the pile of treasure there in the bottom right, and it shows off some amazing fucking key art of a huge serpent with the 4 heroes in battle stances and the agape mouth below the fangs. And poking around a little, this art was done by a cat named Boris Vallejo, who is a fantasy art and illustration legend, as the quality of the work might suggest. But he has like just an endless list of famous art commissions in this story realm. Conan the Barbarian, Tarzan, etc., etc., etc. He also did a lot of movie posters, including those amazing National Lampoon's Vacation and European Vacation illustrations, where like Chevy Chase is standing kind of like Conan, So he did those and a shit ton of others. So yeah, this guy's body of work is unreal.
The dude definitely looks very Conan, so I get those vibes strong.
For 100%, 100%. So he and his wife, who is also an artist, she does more like animal stuff, a little bit in the fantasy realm too, I think, but a lot of animal themed work. And they have a website that is full of dope shit. Like the two of them together have a joint website, which is so beautiful and cool, yes. Really cute. But it's borisjulie.com. It's in the show notes as well. It's pretty straightforward. The names are spelled as you would, most people would spell them. But yeah, it's a great website. A lot of really cool stuff on there. And yeah, for the fantasy medieval stuff or medieval fantasy stuff, Boris's catalog is next level. So recommend that. But the game is very similar to Dungeon Magic, just as the ad is, and it has the panels, the paneled UI, including one with a view of what the party sees in the top left quadrant, and then also a map in the top right. The bottom half of the screen is where all the storytelling and math copy goes for your player attributes and the battles playing out and stuff. And I think the difference in pixel art quality of what you see in the view window is immensely better than that of Taito's effort, the Dungeon Magic game. And yeah, I mean, despite being from perennial shit eater acclaim, in my opinion, I guess we have differing views on that, but either way, the critical response to this game is widely considered to be very positive. So that was kind of surprising to me because this is a game, and I believe this is at least in a little bit, in that 4-player Nintendo Power Strategy Guide that I think is the next one. I think it comes either, it might be direct, because we just passed, I think, the Final Fantasy strategy guide, and that was the third of their full strategy guides. And the fourth one was fittingly so the 4-player guide, and then that was the end of those. So I'm pretty sure that's the next one, and I think this is featured in there. But despite having that and seeing it, for some reason, I did not really try this or get into it at any point. But yeah, I mean, everyone kind of fucking says it's a really good game, and it was developed by, Acclaim's the publisher, but someone else developed it, and this is why it's good. It was developed by this company, Interplay, who was, they're legendary at this kind of thing. They created the Fallout universe in the late 90s with those RPGs. They did the Bard's Tale before that. They created the Baldur's Gate games. So, I mean, just one big dig thing after another. One big dig thing after another. So this is their wheelhouse and a half. So it's not surprising, but it is a little weird to me that I just didn't at no point really tried it with any level of serious effort. I'm sure it maybe rented it or something, but never stuck with it. And yeah, it's way too much for a game app. This is side quest material for sure. But and you know what? I need to add. I can't believe I sent you guys that list and created that list. I need to add this to that list, or is it on the list already? But this should be on that list of things we should constantly.
We'd have to have a reliable 4-player situation be a part of or something else like
that would be that is an incredible idea. It would end
up being the only way to do it.
It would that would be insane not to. You're right. And you know what we'd have to do, because there's only 3 of us. We have to have a 4th. We could Well, I think you do actually have to have. I mean, you have to have a fourth character. I don't know. Maybe someone would control two of them. I don't know. But that would be insane to do. What we should do is, and this only makes it harder to coordinate, of course. But what we should do is we should bring one of the disciples in and have them man the fourth and do that. Yeah, do that. That would be an incredibly cool thing, I think, to do.
Under such scenario, I would play this game.
Yeah,
like if you've seen the art here, this is definitely not my type of game. The current generation.
Would you still say that now?
Evolved, I would totally play.
Would you still say that now?
That's what I'm saying. Like, as games have evolved, I absolutely play like the current version of this. But like,
that's not what I'm asking, Jay. That's not what I'm asking. What I'm saying is, have the side quests not change that to some degree. I mean, I don't want to say to some degree because that couches it. Have the side quests not change that. I understand Ultima can still happen, but generally speaking, the experience has been good. So how can you keep saying that this is not my kind of game if you have enjoyed 3 of the 4 immensely that you have played?
Because this looks like it looks, despite everything, great art-wise about it, like the typical made for point-and-click computer. We're porting this to NES.
I agree.
Spells nope to me, like automatically, even if like the story and everything. But like if everything,
that's not it though.
The feedback is good around it. Then
did you try it? Did you fire it up and try it?
No, because of this. Like because of
dude, it's not. There's nothing. Zero point and click. It's real time. The battles are real time. It's crazy, I know, to think about, but the battles are real time, and this is it's much more like. Which, again, I will keep talking about because it's fucking incredible, and it's not out yet, but we will side quest it. There's no way Jab and even if for some dumb reason you were to not want to, like, it's going to happen. I don't care. You can quit that one if you want, but we're going to side quest Dungeons and Dragons Warriors of the Eternal Sun on Genesis 1000%, and it's much more like that, where it's actually the exact same thing, where yes, you see this view. But when you are in the caves and stuff, so you play the game in an overworld map way, which I guess is different than this. But when you go into the caves and catacombs and stuff, it goes into this exact kind of UI, and you battle real time, including the enemies attacking and stuff. So that's what I mean. It's like, it's a smart way to do the 4-player thing because looking at it, you wouldn't guess that's the case. But when you get into that 4-player real time stuff in battles, like that is... You need that level of engagement for a 4-player game, where you're going to have 4. The only way you're going to get 4 humans paying attention at all times, if it was turn-based, motherfuckers would be dicking off. You didn't have phones to play on yet, but they'd have been doing whatever the 89, 90 equivalent of dicking around your phone would be. So the idea that it's real time keeps everyone engaged at all times, and that's a really smart joining the mechanics, I think.
I mean, anytime you introduce a multiplayer aspect of something, I'm going to be down and I'm going to be interested. So, you talk about that, I'm fully down. Like we play it that way. Yes.
Yeah, that's a really really fun idea. Let's have to bring that up once we conclude this Torland jam that we're on now. So I did fire it up just to reacclimate myself, and it the environments are kind of samey throughout, at least the part that I played. As far as like, it just kind of looks like I don't even think it was supposed to be a cave, but it felt like a cave, and all the walls look the same and shit. But the enemies look great. Like I posted a few of the pictures. I fought a zombie and some bats, and they both look fantastic. Both in there, they have a little bit of an animation to them, not a lot, but a little bit of animation to them, and the actual sprite work is fantastic. The zombie looks incredible. Like I borderline can't believe it was an NES game. To be honest with you, as far as how good that looked, it was much more 16-bit Genesis level sprite work, in my opinion. Really impressive. So after that, we have our letter from the GamePros titled "To Rate or Not to Rate," and this is big, Lurk Disciples. They are introducing their rating system in this issue, and if you see this graphic, you will instantly recognize it. Even if I wasn't even a GamePro reader, and this was, that rating image of the 5 faces, 5 categories: graphics, sound, gameplay, fun factor, challenge. It's all pretty self-explanatory. And then the categories are graded on a 5-point scale, 1 being a snooze fest and 5 being a geeked on Shermstick level of enthusiasm. And yeah, they have progressively more geeked little child faces doodles corresponding to each number for the system. And yeah, that is immediately, I don't know, like, what's the term? Like, it immediately nostalgia generating, even though I was not a GamePro reader, really. It had that level of permeation into 1990 kid culture, so yeah, really, really, really big deal. And they mentioned that they had been reluctant to quantify art like a snooty cunt to date because any rating system is highly subjective. And that is true. But the demand by simpletons to have art devalued in such a manner was just too great. And corporate greed for monetary gain is unfortunately the undying core value of the company. So they they have instituted this, and they double down on the subjectivity of any rating system later in the letter as well. So they are like on more than one occasion here couching the existence of this, but still doing it. Yeah, which is pretty funny. Yeah, but yeah, as much as I loathe the principle, it will make for great comparison infographics between issues of Nintendo Power and GamePro now, and I love infographics.
I'm sure I will not agree with many of their ratings. So
I don't know the one that's not. Yeah, well, we're gonna talk about each one piecemeal, but some of them are not wrong. The one I'm thinking of right now that makes the graphic image here I'm looking at on my screen that I have yet to post because it'll be part of the show marketing here is the one game that really stands out in the little the topography of the rating bars is very accurate in my opinion. So they're not all wrong, but I took knowing I would be doing that. I was very we will. Again, piecemeal through each game, talk about that. But the idea of being able to compare, it quantifies, which I already just fucking said horrible things about, but it quantifies the viewpoints, however much objectivity you want to say they might have had, but it quantifies the viewpoints of the 2 magazines. And like, I don't know, it's the first time in this whole timeline or this whole fucking project we're doing here where there is a quantifiable metric to talk about between, like, the whole point is to compare, whatever the hell that fucking sentence I wrote about looking at examining the US console gaming through the prism of these magazines. Like, it's the first time we can really do that with some measurable thing, and that is really cool. And I'm looking forward to that now being possible because it is kind of the whole point of what we're doing here, and we haven't been able to do it to date because there's been no way to. It's all just subjectivity. So that's interesting and fun. Full pager from Parker Brothers for their NES snowboarding joint. Heavy Shreddin' follows that, and this is endorsed by esteemed periodical International Snowboarding Magazine. It hit back in June. We tried it. Nope. A 2-page Asmix spread has their cute pink dinosaur mascot pitching us top player tennis yet again, and a bunch of Game Boy puzzlers also yet again. But also one that dropped in August called Conquest of the Crystal Palace for the NES. The description of it reads, if you're tired of fighting the same small enemies, then return to the throne at the Crystal Palace. There you will find the evil Zaras in control. Zaras is the toughest, meanest enemy you will face on NES. Zaras will prevail unless you, with the help of your dog Zap, master the ancient skills of Crystal Palace and discover the secrets in the epic action-adventure Conquest of the Crystal Palace. I like dogs. Fine, I'll fire it up. Did you play?
Do tell. Yes. Tell us about your dog experience.
Okay. Well, they give you a really fun cinematic off of a cool title screen when you're running with your dog on a mountaintop. It looks fucking great. I thought that was pretty cool. And then a game starts that at first glance I was very hesitant about. The color palette was a little samey. The sprite has a wee bit of flicker to it, and the controls felt a tad floaty to me, I would say, like the jumping and shit. But dude,
you liked it.
This this might be a really, really good action platformer with RPG elements. Like I couldn't, it's one of those like, holy, no way is this good, Like I go into it with this opinion or expectation where I'm just like, no chance, this is fun, but I have to do this because I say I'm a thorough podcaster. And I think it's good, man. I think it might be good. I warmed up to the controls. Yeah, the enemies and mechanics started to feel pretty good. And the shopkeeper sequence I got into once I climbed all the way up the mountain in the opening area was wacky and fun as fuck. Like, it was one of the most interesting implementations of, like, shop shit that I've ever seen in a game, to be honest with you. Like, it prompted me, in the middle of buying shit, to watch a news report on something they called the QNN network, So, like, you're literally in the middle of going through the shop menus, and it's like, hey, watch some shit on the TV, and you can like move over to the TV and see like a full screen presentation of a news program, It's like, I don't know, just batshit outside the box relative to most games of the time, especially of this type, So, yeah, man, I was kind of blown away. Like, I never got to fuck with the dog before running out of lives because I didn't know what I was doing, but I bought a bunch of cool shit from the shop, and I could immediately tell in a measurable way that they had positive effects on controlling my dude. Like,
there's more going on there.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
by actually reading the manual and those.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, knowing what the fuck is going on will improve your experience greatly. But, and again, it's such a great tool to have the socials as we go through these because it's just so gratifying maybe that like you have this experience and you're like, oh, wait a minute, is this good? Like, am I, because the thing is, this is our 15th GamePro, God knows, we've done so many magazines that like, it's very easy to get into a rut and think every game sucks, or because we're not seeing enough new games, you're like, I already played that, fuck it, who cares? Yeah. It's very easy, I guess very hard, I should say, to stick with it and do it the way we're supposed to be doing it with the same level of enthusiasm for each new title, It's hard to do that. So it's easy to like, it can just be mood based of whether or not you actually like a game or you don't really give enough of a chance, but like to have like the social
social proof.
Right, exactly. Yeah, social proof. That's the word, our phrase where, just posted like you can just very quickly see the games that people revere like this, and people revered this one, are like immediately like, oh my God, like that's, and they're telling you stories about it and shit, like it's just, you can tell the games that have something there very quickly, and to get the validation of like, oh, maybe I was fucking right is a really cool part about this. So the mail is next, and the first half of them are reinforcing the mag's decision to include a Pro Classics feature covering older games and various perspectives on reasoning for it. The last one is probably my favorite. It is a 13-year-old kid talking who calls himself a vidiot, and I dig that he used that terminology for himself, about how his whole family, 7-year-old sister, 33-year-old mom, 41-year-old dad, go dad, hitching his wagon to a woman 8 years younger, way to go dad, and 72-year-old grandpappy. So a 72-year-old dude playing video games in 2023 is wild as fuck to me, dude. A 72-year-old dude playing in 1990 is fucking bananas, Yeah, like, and also very enviable. Like, I don't have anything bad to say about any of my grandparents, but they were not playing, or rather, they weren't playing, they weren't playing none of those fucking video games in 1990, like they're just not,
Definitely were not.
Right, yeah, like, I talked about it when it happened and posted, like, how fucking amazing I thought it was to get my Oculus on my grandma's head and, like, how incredible that was to watch, and, like, the fact that she found enthusiasm in doing it was even more, fucking cool, but, you just tell, like, a whole lifetime of no chance. Not bothering with it. I don't care. Fuck off.
It'll be different for us, like we're in our generation. For sure. Like,
but they'll have there'll be something, there'll be something that's the same thing.
We'll all be living in the Ready Player One metaverse together.
Precisely, yeah. And we'll refuse to whatever fucking. I won't stick my hand in the thing that lets you feel exactly what is in the game on your hand, or whatever it is. Like, there'll be some dumbass thing.
I don't want any part of that.
Yeah, I'm not fucking downloading TikTok. fuck off. It's fucking stupid. I don't see why you like it. Fuck off. Yeah, that will be there in one way or shape or another. That is as sure as the sun rises. That's a great one. And then between them are a couple letters crying about the absence of art contests since the Phantasy Star 2 one a while back. And GamePro assures they are not going anywhere and will absolutely have age categories moving forward, which I support. I've talked a lot of shit about that. Like, fucking the 27-year-old dude is winning in this contest. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, that's fucking dumb. Jesus Christ.
Hey, he's got to get his art career going some way. He's got to get seen some kind of way.
I guess, man. I guess. So that's it for me for letters. Did you anything else?
Only the first. I just found the first one funny. It was just like, damn, Lane is just gatekeeping and not trying to see these older games at all. Like, hey, there's a lot of games to be seen. If they want to, people want like tips for older games, give them a hotline, a tip line that they can just call. Like, we didn't want to see those older games in the magazine. It's like,
it's funny. I'm surprised, I guess, that they're offering opposing viewpoints. That they're trying to make it like a credible public debate.
Immediately after that, it's like, yeah, I'm also in response to this. F that. Like, I need these. I got an Atari. Like,
yeah, put me on.
Don't leave me behind.
Put me on. Stop rubbing it in that my parents don't love me and buy me new games. I need to know about the shit that I actually have.
California games on the Atari is still hard to beat. Okay.
Yeah, tips. Right. Give me tips. Yep. Namco has a full pager next for some Genesis action, our last game at Philios, and a new one we haven't seen, Burning Force. This is not out till November though, but it's another arcade port and it appears to be well regarded. Probably best we take some time off from Genesis ports from Namco anyhow. So I was fine with not having to fire that up quite yet. A whole lot of full pagers follow that, most of which we've seen and talked about. Data East has a Battle Chess one that, while we've seen the game and talked about it long ago, this ad is new, and I really like the ad. It's got a title up top that reads, "Ye old game is not the same," and then they drop some superb implementation of the word circa for comedic effect. Two pictures are side by side below that, one labeled Circa 1989 up top and captioned Knight Takes Rook down below. An illustration depicts classic-looking chess pieces performing that action. And the next panel, is labeled Circa 1990 and captioned Knight Obliterates Rook with a badass knight obliterating an anthropomorphized stone tower. So it is a really, really, I think, smart and engaging way to show the difference between playing chess and playing battle chess.
Can I tell you, in preparation for this episode, I finally got the ROM for this. Finally. And I forgot how much I loved this game as a kid. Like, I played so much of this. Like, I love this game. Yeah, it immediately came back. Immediate nostalgia feelings. I played chess growing up anyway, so I'm a nerd anyway.
Do you like the battle? The battle is fun?
I do like the battle, yeah. Like it. I like the queen like zapping people with magical orbs and stuff. I like how it's different.
The animation stuff is great. The thing, honestly, I think my problem with it is, and it has nothing to do. It's not Battle Chess's fault at all, which is not fair, obviously. But to me, it's Base Wars. And how big of a letdown Base Wars is. The battle mechanic, it's the same idea. It takes this thing that I also enjoy, baseball games. I don't mind them, especially in the NES era, and adds this thing that is like, oh my god, that's a brilliant, fun thing to add to this. But that thing sucks in application. So like the actual battle mode and Base Wars sucks. It sucks. And every time I get into a battle in Battle Chess, it's all I can think about.
Really?
And that's not Battle Chess's fault. But
I just think of it like a cutscene, like it's like a quick 10-second like zap cutscene of whichever piece is getting.
Am I misremembering this? Do you not control the battles?
No, you don't control the battles. It's like, think about it like it's chess. So like if I'm a queen and if I go land on your knight space, like the animation of my queen, she's coming and like zapping an orb at the knight, and he's
that's awesome. Yeah,
whatever.
I can't believe I thought it was actually you did a little battle.
No, this one's a little different.
Wow, I'm way off there. Okay, well,
because it's still chess, so it's what I mean. It's not quite like it doesn't add the additional variable like, hey, you might you thought you were landing on this space to take
Right.
this, but you might lose. Like it's
Right.
not quite that.
Okay. That's gotta exist.
I know. As I'm talking about it, I'm like,
That's gotta exist,
right? Like,
yeah. That's why I thought that. Like maybe I've never played battle chess
Extreme
my whole life,
chess.
and I have this like a perfect example of just fucking your child mind forging memories that don't exist. Data East also has Caveman Games coming at us next, and we've been seeing ads about this for a while, but it finally dropped this month, so let's talk about this insanity.
what is there to talk about? It is
The game,
whackness.
yeah, the game, that's what's to talk about, though, I think. So, cross-training caveman style is the headline in the ad, and I dig the pitch copy here, so I'm going to read it. Welcome to sports training, 2 million BC. Forget jogging and weightlifting. Caveman Games is serious athletics. 6 radical Neanderthals compete in hilarious and dangerous events. Winners join the caves of fame. Losers join the fossils. Struggling to survive has never been so fun. Get bashed, beaten, chased, and eaten in the greatest pre-hysterical challenge ever. It's cool cave action for 1 to 6 players. So that one right there, you can play 6 players. It's controller pass, but you can play 6 players at one time. So that makes this a party game. So it's a proto Mario Party game. And it's also, much like Mario Party, is really just a button mashing minigame collection. It's not, there's very little control of these
That's
events.
how I felt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Play.
And that, I don't know. It depends what you're trying to do. If you're trying to make it a party game, which, Mario Party is the same way. It's newer and more polished, but it's the same thing. I've only played Mario Party a handful of times, but it's just fucking. It's not. It's only fun because of what plays out on screen while you hit that button, which is smart, well done, and Nintendo-y and fun. And then it's competitive against people you're sitting in a room with, or I guess you probably play online now too. But it's the competitive aspect of it is also the fun thing. So those things are all here. All those things are here. If you played it with 6 other people and you were doing that button mashing shit, I think this would work. But if you're sitting alone at your computer playing this by yourself for a podcast, this game is dog shit. It's wrapped.
I could buy into that. I could be convinced that that's the case.
Yeah.
But I definitely, all I know is the second part of that argument.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the problem is, and the reason, like this game, I remember running this game. I remember Jab and I running this.
Oh, really?
Yes. So I have like a rental memory of it. So, we played it together. There's an age gap there. But I'm sure we probably had a little bit of fun in the competitive aspect of it. But that aside, like the game is wrapped in such a goofy and fun skinning that you can get tricked into not realizing that, especially as a kid, which is why I think I remember it fondly. I remember not being able to process it emotionally that I don't think I'm enjoying this, but it's so what on the screen is so fun and so different and interesting that. I want. There's dinosaurs, man. I want to like this. This is fun.
Like this game,
right?
This
Yeah,
game. They're like,
right.
But it's not fun. Like this game.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just there's so many things about it that are good. It's like the antithesis of that thing I've quoted a million times from the Kitchen Boys. Like the first thing you got to do is that repetitive game loop has got to work. Everything you build around that can be incredible. But if that first seed isn't there, all that shit it's not going to matter.
It's just, yeah. Exactly.
Right, and that's exactly what we have here. Like, everything else about it is brilliant and fun and creative and inventive, but it's not fun, I don't think.
Playing the clubbing match with the computer, I'm just like, dude, what am I even doing?
Awful.
That was the final straw.
But if you put 2 kids on the floor and they have their NES controllers on the floor and they're doing that thing where you're not even holding the controller, you're just hitting the button.
You're just like tapping.
Yeah. And 2 kids next to each other looking at each other while they do it. Tell me you don't think that's fun. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Right.
I suppose it could work in 1990.
Yep. So as a party game, I think they might have succeeded, but we're not going to be able to. Just like with Swords and Serpents, unless we do it the right way, we gotta at least couch a little bit how much shit we talk.
Fair.
Some Hudson full pagers for meh titles Mendel Palace and Zezzies come next. Whatever on these games, but we've seen these countless times now, and I clocked something in the Zezzies ad I had not previously noticed that it was kind of fun to me. The top right corner has a dog ear that reads, "Free puzzle. Just cut out and send in the Zezzy's logo from the front of the box while supplies last." And first time we've seen a free puzzle giveaway. That's cool. I like that. Yep. And I, you know how I work. I immediately was like, oh, gotta find that. So like looking around the interwebs trying to find this puzzle, and I could not come up with anything. So please God, disciples, if you have this or know of a place where I can see it, please do send it in and let us know. But the second, what?
I was going to say, maybe we'll find it, as part of research when we do our next podcast episode. So maybe
that's true. That's true. I will look harder when we do that. So you're right. Yeah. But two, they also have a pretty unorthodox ask here in asking people to cut out the title off the front of the box for something like this. Like normally, yes, UPC symbols, send those in, but you never see cut up the box. The title off the front of the box. I've never seen that before. And economics, I always want to take it there. I wonder if CIB copies of this game are even more rare and expensive because of this fucking puzzle giveaway. Yeah. Supply and demand, folks. Adam Smith, The Wealth of Nations, The Invisible Hand. It's funny. I can easily find this out, come to think of it. I can look this up on my... Well, I don't even need to do that, but I have my collecting app. Yeah. It's only got a 4.5 out of 12 rarity rating, and the CIB copies of it, well, it says 57, and the actual first eBay listing I'm seeing down below is at 120. So, prediction, price guide not matching up with actual marketplace here, but also that hasn't been sold. So, sometimes those prices on these fucking eBay listings are not actually representative of what people will really pay. It'll just sit there unpurchased forever. But yeah, I a little more research would turn up whether or not compared to, I guess you'd have to, the problem is to really gauge that, you have to be compared to a similar title of the time and see what the CIB difference is to really know whether that's elevated or not. 120 for a CIB or 60, whichever of those, both sound relatively reasonable to me for a 19 that's like an 88 game or something, So that seems pretty reasonable, to be honest with you. But maybe no one got the puzzle. That's why we can't find it. No one's sending for the puzzle. So next is a unique feature we haven't seen in a GamePro before: the GamePro's Rate Sports Games. And this is great. I love this. They did a reader poll back in the February issue, asking us to rate all of the video game sports titles that were available at the time. And this is across all systems. And I love that they say it took some time to tabulate the results from the thousands of surveys they had come in. And 8 months is the some time they are talking. And yeah, that's quite a bit of some time. I agree. But this is really cool. They have a chart of all those games, and it's a lot of them. Shit ton NES games. There are 10 SMS games, 2 Genesis, and 3 Turbo 16 titles, and all rated in a rating system almost identical to the rating system they're imposing in the ProViews this month, or on the ProViews this month. And they combine graphics and sound into one category, and that's the difference, and add an overall category. They also crown the top 10 in a graphic chock full of Batman POW starbursts, and it's almost all NES in this top 10, which I admit is fair. There is, SMS sports titles are pretty lacking in general, and neither Genesis or Turbo 16 had dropped in any real heat yet. So back in February, So, NES is dominating this. Makes a lot of sense to me. But the rundown.
It's interesting that Tecmo Bowl is number 1 in the 10 all-time favorite sports titles. I
was going to read them off. And you just crashed the one. You crashed the one. So even though Jay ruined the number 1, we'll go through all 10. Starts with RC Pro-Am, then Baseball Stars, Pro Wrestling, Tommy Lasorda Baseball. That's the one outlier on Genesis. And then Bases Loaded, Double Dribble, Track and Field 2, Blades of Steel, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, and then Tecmo Bowl. And yes, I would, of course, slot Punch-Out first. But I'm not going to shank anybody with a shiv about Tecmo Bowl going first in this list, so I can live with that. But what were you going to say about?
I would
about not ruining the suspense the podcast presentation show that we're doing here, but not ruining that. What else were you going to say about it?
I was going to say, it's interesting to me, like when you look up top with the GamePros rating the sports games, the only title with a 9 in total is Timeless Sword of Baseball. So they're basically saying that Timeless Sword of Baseball is the highest rated sports title that they have. Yet the top 10 favorite, like it is not. It's only
okay. So yeah,
so it's interesting.
You notice this as well. There. So yes, first I want to say I can see most everything else in the list being where it is, out of the top 10, being where it is too, even if I don't totally agree. I obviously launch track and field 2 into the sun, but whatever. Some people care about Olympic shit way more than I do, and I get that. But yes, omissions that I would bring up are super off-road, ice hockey.
That's unacceptable.
Yeah, totally unacceptable. And here's the really interesting thing about being unacceptable. Also RBI and Baseball Stars are 2 others that I would put here, but I know a lot of people really like Baseball Stars, so I'm also not going to die on that hill. But yeah, off-road is really highly rated. And it's rating across the board. It's better than RC Pro-Am. And I don't know how the fuck this top 10 was calculated as a result. So we have a 7.6, 7.7,
RC
7.
Pro-Am is terrible.
Well, it's not terrible.
Not terrible.
No. Yeah, that's a great game too.
When you're 7s and 6s versus 8s and 9s.
Right, exactly. It's just like, what the fuck? How are you doing this? What's the... show me your math, bro.
Where did you get this favorite from?
Right. Yeah, it's just like Nintendo Power. Well, we eventually figured it out, but Nintendo Power with the 3 lists on the back of the top 30 and then the top 30, like how the fuck is this being computed, man? Like, show me your numbers. But yeah, I love RC Pro-Am a ton, man, but off-road is better both in my view and then clearly in the polls view, so it should be on the list, So yeah, I don't know. I don't get it. This is cool, though. I would like more of these GamePro. Please comply.
Please put down your weapon. You have 20 seconds to comply.
I think you'd better do what he says, Mr. Kenny.
Hot Bees Shingen the Ruler bullshit gets us to a 2-banger spread for Devil's Crush on the TurboGrafx, and this ad is incredible. I just want to stare at it. The top third across both pages is 2 huge evil-feeling eyes that have a reflection of the game title hovering in front of the flames. And then there's a large copy on the left that reads, "Remember when Mommy told you not to play with fire? Maybe you should have listened." She'll say, "If you play Devil's Crush video pinball in the underworld, you'll get horribly burned." And you will. You'll probably get fried many times while locked in a mortal battle with the devil's elite guards. The dragons will roast you, the skeletons will toast you, the sorcerers will plan a barbecue around you. But you'll have to flip your way past all of them to fight the ultimate Armageddon with the devil himself. The big kahuna awaits. And that is an elite ad for an elite pinball joint. And might have been the first time that might have been rather the game that got me to first download the TurboGrafx 16 emulator way back when, because of all the chatter on the Facebook page when I posted something about this game. So I think I have this game to thank for my willingness to do side tangents on TurboGrafx games, which has been a bountiful, a rewarding experience, because there have been a lot of cool games I've found.
Yeah, this ad definitely had me thinking about doing that as well. Yeah. I looked at the controller. I was like, well, it looks like he has a controller. Like, this ad is that good. I definitely considered downloading this game for that reason. But I was like, it's still pinball at the end of the day.
Oh, dude, you should. It's a really good... Even, I mean, yes, I like pinball games. It's a really good pinball game. And it's one of those multiple screen ones. It's really well done, dude. Yeah. It's really, really, really good. The animation is fantastic. The ball physics are great. Like, it's really, really good. And the music is absolute fire. So I tell you, like, since I made my RetroArch switch, it's so easy, dude. It's so easy to do on there. So it's not at all some uphill battle to make happen for you. The cutting edge this month is on the Miracle Piano teaching system, and we have seen this before and marveled at how wild an idea it is to release this on the NES, where I just don't see how you could really have expected enough of an audience to bite on the $299.95 MSRP they are quoting here. But it is cool, and I don't playing the piano or have any music creation inclination whatsoever, but the functionality list they rattle off in this article seems incredibly all-encompassing for what you could ask from both a teaching and a playing perspective. Like, it sounds like it's fucking great, for accomplishing this.
As someone who has played the saxophone all their life and, like, composed stuff when I was a kid and, like, watching my daughter do the same, like, this would have been awesome. Like, I would be lobbying hard. Like, if my parents were the type who are like, make sure you're practicing all the time, that type, I'd be like, this will help me. Like, you have no idea.
Jay, let's let like a corporate role playing fucking exercise. Let's role play you petitioning your parents to drop a 300 burger on this fucking thing.
Oh, there's absolutely zero chance that I'd be getting that. For 300, like the NES was 99. To get that?
Right.
Like 3x the price. That's what I'm saying. Like, you would have to be very wealthy. Like, there's absolutely no world in which I would have gotten this. It's just, it sounds awesome though. Good job for innovation. But no, man, that's nuts.
Which, it's funny. And this is just, I have no data to back this up. But in my mind, because pianos are expensive, So the kids who were, whether pushed into it by their parents themselves or somehow took it up on their own inclination, in either case, to have access to a piano, unless you were, I don't know how you do that for free and luck into it. A family friend has one and will let you come over all the time and make a bunch of noise. I don't know. But generally speaking, you have to be rich to be able to be a piano player as a kid. So from that perspective, if that's true, and I'm not just being, totally full of conjecture in this, it's not the worst business decision. Of all the instruments you could pick, it's probably the right one to do this with.
Sure.
I
wonder how many kids every year are forced into learning the piano by their parents. Like,
here's the point: rich parents. That's
exactly.
The important thing.
Yeah. Where I live, not a joke. But you know what I mean. And you're probably gonna have Nintendo already, so it's gonna be like, Mom, like, you want me to, like, this will get me to be the next level. Do you want me to learn? You want me to learn, Mom? Or do you want me to compose and be the greatest composer of all time? No, of course.
This will push me over the edge. And this, it's too, maybe we talked about it when we first saw it, but it works as a standalone deal. Like, you don't even need to have the NES component of it is just a teaching tool. It works and can be plugged into speakers even, and function as a standalone keyboard. So I guess that adds the layer of argument that if you are not a rich enough kid to have a piano, this is actually a cheaper way to bring it into your life. And I don't know how much a Yamaha keyboard was at the time, but I bet it was about the same, if not more. Probably more. So
we might have. There's not some crazy different in sound quality. I mean, what? Like,
it's mid-eye and it's I don't know. Yeah, and the Nostalgia guys just did. Their last episode was on this last Friday, so they were talking about it and saying that. I mean, it's pretty. Like, all the shit was, it all worked really well. And the one guy actually got one or bought it offline to. Oh, really? And he was like, I don't know really shit about music. He's like, but I was kind of learning how to play music. The song that they wanted you to play. Gotcha. Like, he's like, I don't know. I can't, like, take this knowledge and then go play another song. He's like, but and they were comparing it to Duolingo or something like that. Like, how, they like teach you, like, how to say fucking glass of water or something, and, like, you don't really know what you're saying, but that means glass of water. You don't know the phonetics of what you're doing. You don't know the building blocks of what you know, but you know the thing. So they said pretty good things about it. But yeah, there's a CIB of one of these on eBay right now for $349.99 plus $102.27 shipping, and you can cop a Lucy of just the NES cart that came with it for $20. So if you want to do some mini economic analysis, Loric Disciples, an appreciation of $50.04 over the last 33 years is not a good investment. Cumulative inflation over that span is 128.9%. So anything less than 686.58 in return is losing dough on your fiscal endeavor here. So these have not appreciated maybe quite as much as one would hope if they had bought one at the time. The Quickshot Python joystick ad and a couple of Electro Brain ads are next. Fist of the North Star for the Game Boy has an awesome illustration for an IP that Toei Animation has, but I know nothing about. Then Puss in Boots on the NES. Drop back in June. Play ball. Absolutely horrendous side-scrolling shooter platformer. Just no. Did you?
But Josh, that makes me so sad.
Yeah, you didn't enjoy this? You enjoyed this?
I think it actually played really well. Like this,
you like those fucking Disney games too, man. Those fucking the bad ones, not the good ones. The Mickey Mouse ones. Mickey, hey. Well, the new one on the Genesis, looks good. Castle of Illusion looks good, but those NES Mickey games are dog shit.
There's one that's great. Anyway, I mean, honestly, this IP didn't mean anything to me as a kid. Like even now, I really only associate it with like the version from the Shrek movies. Like that's pretty much it.
See, I don't even know that. Puss in Boots is literally nothing to me.
Yeah. So like, I know there's a movie out like now, and I'm just kind of like, whatever. Still,
I didn't even know
whatever.
that.
But this game, you know, it's still early. It's still very basic, early platforming type of game. But it played better than I thought. Like once I first looked at it, and I was like, this is really terrible. And I don't know why it's a platformer, and I was just in the mood that day, so I just played it a little more. Kind of got used to it. Kind of got used to the jumping and kind of everything with it. It's not a bad game. I'm not saying it's great. I'm not saying I want to do an outside app on it, but it's
tolerable if mom brought it home.
Absolutely, yeah. Mom rented it. Like I'm gonna make this work, and it's gonna be fine.
Word. That's what you get. For Christmas, I'm gonna get you a rubber stamp that says that. Fucking tolerable if mom brought it home. Pro Classics is taking us way back to 86 and our very first Game Ep alum with the next 2 pages on Capcom's Ghosts and Goblins. There's a couple of pro tips with cheeses for the Red Devils in here, and those would have been very helpful for that play. They also dropped the very first appearance of their rating system here, and did not expect the Pro Classics to have them, only the Pro Views. So we're getting so much more bang for our buck than expected here, Jay. No numbers are included with the little icons, and that was kind of surprising to me. So I guess you're supposed to memorize the 1 to 5 values of the icons, which you will, of course, eventually. But when I first was seeing these, I was having to flip back to the letter from the editor every time to quantify them and put them into my fucking charts so I could do the thing.
I'm like, I know the purple was like the worst.
right, yeah.
And there's also not like the whacked out dude. There's no best either.
Right,
you know,
but
so
yeah,
I can kind of figure out the rest.
Yeah, 2, 3, and 4 though are a little yeah. So they give us graphics are 3, sound 2, gameplay 3, fun factor 4, challenge 4, which computes to a 64% overall, and they are being generous, I think. The gameplay should be a 2. Fun factor should be a 2. Challenge a 5, which would be a 56%, and that sounds about right to me, thinking back to the trauma I experienced while playing this game. So, our first time where we have a point of contention with the GamePros and their rating system. Ads for that Spot NES Jam and GamePro's 900 number get us to another banger from NEC, a 2-page spread for Splatterhouse, and this is the same idea as that all-white one with the title in blood, but on a black background this time, and the white one was more attention-grabbing for sure, but this is still a fire ad. So, NEC, again, I said it when we saw that Splatterhouse ad last time, and just, the ads are so good. It's because I didn't have GamePro. That's what it is. I just didn't have. These were that's why I didn't even know about it, or it didn't. I have no memory of even it existing for the most part.
You're not exposed to the goodness.
Right?
That
Yeah, because
these
ads are incredible. They're all incredible. You know, all their ads are great, man. So there's just no way as a kid I wouldn't have at least been like trying to find a way to get to a system to at least try it or something. You know, I'm not saying I'd have been fucking looking to replace my NES or anything, but I'd at least put a little more effort into finding one, I think, than I ever did. Hot at the Arcades brings 2 Halloween-themed coin-ops to our attention, Sega's Moonwalker and SNK's Beast Buster. Moonwalker has 3-player simultaneous play, it says, and I tried to score this for MAME, but it was one of the failed projects. It didn't work with any of my 72 MAME cores, so I couldn't compare it to our Genesis Game App experience. But Beast Buster is a zombie shooter with an Uzi gun with one of those grenade launcher buttons on it, a la Operation Wolf's arcade cabinet. Those are fucking great. Yeah. Never seen played it, but I can viscerally envision playing it because I've played enough games just like that. Terminator 2, also like that.
So many of them.
Yeah. My buddy Al, he's my Al from Catch-22. He bought a house in Vegas, and he's kind of man-caved some aspects of it out, and he's bought a bunch of arcade cabinets for it. He keeps trying to get me to come out and visit. I have not done so yet, but I know one of the cat. He texted me the one day. He's like trying to prod me for arcade cabinet recommendations, and I know that he got Operation Wolf as one of them. So he has a full original OG Operation Wolf cabinet out at his house in Vegas right now, which is enough of a reason alone to go up to Vegas if there aren't any others. Natsumi is coming at us next with a full pager for One Shadow of the Ninja on the NES, and the Emperor's Problems have just doubled is the copy up top, and it shows both a male and a female with katanas drawn in front of a space-age alien ship hovering over a modern city on one side of them, and an ancient, or I don't know if it's ancient, I guess, but an alien structure on the right of them. And 2 ninjas, 2 players, too much is their last pitch copy line. I like that a lot. More ninjas is always better. You can't ever have too many ninja options. Yes. So that's good marketing. I've never seen it. I've never heard of this. I fucking love ninja options, as I just mentioned. It dropped August 10th, so let's do this. And, dude. This game is fucking fire. How have I never heard of this? This is fucking incredible. This is an incredible video game. The opening cinematic, straight fire, like rain animation in the very first stage, like that's fire. Controls fire. Weapon upgrades in just the very first stage that I played. Fucking fire. And fire boss battle. Fire. The game is absolute fucking fire. Like in podcast game episode now, let's go. This is fucking an incredible game. And there's just had you heard of it before?
So I'm not sure if I'd heard of it before. Like the box art looks
ninjas,
so familiar.
Too many ninjas. There's
so many ninjas. I love ninjas.
Too many ninjas. 1990, there's just too many ninjas. I can't track all the fucking ninjas. I can't keep track of all your ninjas, man.
I love platformers and I love ninjas. Like this is definitely a game that Mom would have rented and me and Jess would have played it and we would have just been all about it, So I'm in. So have I heard of it before? I'm not sure, but it was cool. It's definitely cool to play.
Really fucking good. Yeah, no, it is all the things there to make.
Give me 3 days. I'm beating this game. If I'm not, especially if I don't have school. Like if I have school those days, maybe not. But
I think I was able to beat the first boss. Yeah, no, it was so enjoyable. Everything about it was so enjoyable. The mechanics, your controls, like the it's kind of like reminded. Also, we'll talk about later about Street Fighter 2010. Like same thing. The controls in that, like fucking, that's Capcom, so you'd expect, but like just really, 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 really fucking good. Natsumi less credible than Capcom, so a little more surprising. Two-pager spread for the links winds us down on the first act of this issue, and how about those teeth? Those were a real thing in the 80s, were they not? Like this is like I saw this and I was like,
why though?
Why? Yeah, well, I did some research, as I am wont to do, and they had been a thing since 1949 when one Eddie Goldfarb invented them, and they were first released under the moniker Yakity Yak Talking Teeth by a company called H. Fishlove and Company. And that company is now a division of Fun Incorporated. That's a real company. Fun Incorporated is a company. And still produces these things to Goldfarb specifications. So get yourself a pair of Yakity Yak Talking Teeth. If you want them, they're available. That is the Super Glove Ball on the NES Stage 2 theme. And Adventures of GamePro revs its engines up next for us. And Todd is hanging out with Psycho Fox again, same as last issue, as the Stalker bears down on him. And they take down Mad Fox, and the plot thickens. Next issue is Rad Gravity, and I have no idea what the fuck that is. So I look forward to
we'll find out.
Yeah, I look forward to experiencing that. Spread over the 3 pages of the comic is a 3-page ad from Mattel for their Schmauer Dove Ruse Cart Super Glove Ball, which is the crank we just are listening to now, I'm sure, still, actually, knowing how I edit these podcasts. And it says in the ad, you don't need the Schmauer Dove, that you can play with your favorite controller, in quotation marks, which definitely isn't a fucking Schmauer Dove for just about anyone.
That's definitely not.
Yeah, so dropped in October. So let's see how it plays with not a Schmauer Dove. And Jesus Christ, how nauseating is the prominence of that Mattel logo on the title screen of this game. Like, there's just, I posted in the socials and like, does anyone have any idea who published this game? Like, just like,
hey, Mattel let you know they mean toys. They are.
Yeah.
You better know. You better ask somebody.
Oh, that makes sense because this fucking game's not good. But the title crank is a real banger. All the music in the game is lit, really, which is why we used another one of the tracks coming into this segment. The channels a lot of Marble Madness vibes because, Rare made this, so that's worth mentioning and talking about, that Mattel hired a good company to do the development on this. But, yeah, I couldn't get this game to start. I don't know if the ROM core on my handheld automatically maps it to a Power Glove or what, but the buttons did no anything for me. Could you get it to work? Did you get it to work?
No, ROM, no worky for me. Like,
okay.
It was the same thing. It just wouldn't work at all. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, my best guess is it automatically maps in some way to but that doesn't really make any sense because even a Power Glove has a normal control pad.
Yeah, I thought about that too, and then I switched to another game, and I was like, the other games work. Like, I don't understand. Yeah.
So no explanation for that. I am rather confident I'm not missing a hidden gem or anything, though. So I'm not upset about it, but I am curious how this went, particularly with a Power Glove, because it's obviously so seemingly designed for a Power Glove. But Mike Tyson's Punch-Out is seemingly designed for a Power Glove too, and it is a horrible, a horrible experience. So.
You're not doing the Wii level activity like you thought you were, where you're actually actively
right. Yeah, we'll never know. We're living fucking in the dark on this, just like with the piano thing. A handful of ads we've seen try to scare us off our path of destiny to the start of Pro Views and the cover feature, Carts That Go Bump in the Night. The first featured is Konami banger Castlevania 3 on the NES. It hit in September, so we could play this game. It would only happen next over my dead body because Shadows of the Ninja, but we could. We could play this next. The only thing in the article of note, from my view, other than the ridiculously glowing praise and 96% power meter rating, sound got a 4, all 5s otherwise, is this password blockade blurb here. So the game has a password feature, but also a lithium battery, which, and this part is in quotations, direct quote, which customizes the passwords for each specific game player in each specific cartridge. And I struggle to make heads or tails of that sentence. Does that just mean that players can't trade passwords?
That's,
I'm
like, to me, that's exactly what that means. Like, you can't give your password to your friend to skip a level. It's not gonna work. Sorry,
because it won't go in there unless they have your cart. Unless you give them your cart also.
Yeah.
No, so yeah, interesting. I don't know what's the.
That's the next level of like, hey, you're gonna beat this yourself. Like, if you beat our game, like, you have to do it with less cheats, bro.
Right. Yeah, and there's all this journalistic speculation of this game era, how Nintendo and they're not subsidiaries, but they might as well be, a company like Konami, their licensees are constantly trying to thwart the rental game market by doing things that make it harder to beat and prolong the gameplay, so a rental doesn't give you enough time to beat it, and you still have to purchase the damn thing. So, that is my thinking for why one might do it, but just weird. It's definitely a weird choice, and I don't know of another place where I see that exact tactic, if that is a tactic for that purpose. $49.95 is the MSRP. They quote, "I fired it up thinking I want to just get a little taste, a little taste, but you know this has game app tattooed on it head to toe one day or another, so you know it almost probably didn't need to do that. That opening cinematic, Jay."
Yeah.
Chef's kiss on that opening cinematic. The film edges they put on it to give it that old movie feel. So good. And when the opening screen of the actual game appeared on screen, I thought to myself, I've never seen this before. So I don't think I've ever played this game at all, man. Yeah.
Really?
And that to me, yeah, it's crazy. It's even crazier than having been basically true for the first game for me, I think, because this is immediately discernible as an immense quality of life improvement over both the first two games. You know, the gameplay, controls, everything, anime, all way better. Yeah, so it's even weirder to me that this is a game that, and I've said before, all this whole IP, you know, Simon's Quest, I did play a shit ton, and I loved it, even though it's not a good game. And all the more weird that, like, you know, it was no other game on the NES has got, this is that I didn't even write that down. That is a very important thing to note. This is the first franchise to hit a third installment on the NES. No other game. Mario, Zelda.
That's true. I actually had to do a double take at first. Like, is this a Super Nintendo game? Like, are we sure this is still, like, because it's 3, you know?
Yeah.
But I've played this game so much as a kid. I have so much fond and not fond memories of this game.
The vibe on the fascia page was definitely that it's difficult. So that's not surprising to hear you say that. But yeah, I mean, I only climbed some of the stained glass window tower, but all the while doing so, it felt so good playing it. The music, the controls, it's just peak NES gaming, must game ep, obviously, I think. But yeah, I'm not. It being hard is not surprising to hear you say that.
Yeah, I just roll my eyes when we talk about playing this. Like, of course, I wrote it down as a possibility, but I'm just kind of like, just because I know, I know what it entails. Like, this is a game I played traveling with my parents over the years on arcade cabinets. You know what I mean? Like, I am so familiar.
This was a Castlevania 3 is an arcade.
Well, maybe
cabinet?
not this one on the arcade, but just the franchise
Castlevania
in general, and like this one specifically on the NES. And so I'm just kind of like, oh man,
I don't think I knew the first Castlevania. I don't think I knew the first Castlevania was an arcade cabinet.
There's definitely an arcade cabinet.
Really? I will have to maim that for sure. I will have to maim that. Let me fucking
like
jot
one of them. Definitely.
Let me jot this down on my fucking moleskin here. Castlevania. To download that.
I feel like 3 is like prime time one that was, but
I feel like the late. You know, I feel like at this point it had become just, you know, it had become a console thing. Like, I can see the first one because they didn't know that it was going to hit like it did. But I feel like at this point it's become all NES in my.
But they're also like on the little handhelds at the time, the little Tigers things. Like, you can definitely get Castlevania on all the little like peripheral.
Sure.
You know, so I think they're trying to maximize it right now.
They're pimping the IP out for sure. I don't doubt that. Okay, well, you know, I imagine we'll talk about that later. Beetlejuice is next, cited as being from Acclaim, but that's because LGN was recently sold to Acclaim, and they are still figuring out how they're going to release shit under the LJN banner, I guess, is my thinking here. Doing research, when I was looking around first, I was like, what the fuck? I can't figure out what the fuck. Looking at Moby Games and stuff, it was really a very confusing fucking web of almost like tacks with string tied to them on a pushboard. Trying to fucking get to the root of this game. But it's Rare developed, which again suggests some promise, but it's not out till May of 91, so that also suggests some complications with the LJN acquisition to me, based on how long or how far from now that is. They give it a 68% on the rating meter, cite a $44.95 MSRP, and what's your take on the Beetlejuice, like the movie?
It's a good movie. Yeah, man. Like, To me, it's generally well loved. Like, it's a game that we like the general public likes. Like, it's wacky, but it's different. You know what I mean? And I think that's why we loved it. Like, that's the only reason I know that. Like, Day-o, Day-o,
yeah.
Daylight
whoever made that song is definitely fucking in love with making the choice to sign away that fucking little piece of royalty.
Yes,
pie.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, they have definitely probably funded their whole life on that just one instance of their song. Yeah, I don't like to quantify art, as you know, but I think it would probably be in my top 10 flicks of all time list if I did. Beetlejuice is... Jab had a VHS cassette of it, and we watched that so many times. And yeah, it's such a brilliantly original. Everything about it is so good, you know. The fucking Keaton's performance is off the charts. It's fucking just great. Really, really cool. Creative. Tim Burton at his finest. Oh, man. I love the cartoon also. Do you remember the
cartoon was good too. It was it was different, but it was good.
It was way outside the IP. Yeah, it went even further for sure, which you should do with an illustrated version of an already wacky IP, I think. But yeah, just
it was in that same vein as the real Ghostbusters versus the other like that whole era, you know, which we've talked about.
Taking it a bit zanier, yeah, agreed. Yeah. Agreed. Drax Night Out from Parker Brothers is next, and I already said, and both times we've briefly touched on seeing it on the cover here and wherever the hell it was previously, but this game sounds like a really unique concept, not just in the title, but also in the description of it, and might be pretty damn fun. You are Dracula. You wake up in your castle, and it's been invaded by villagers. So step one is working your way down from the 30th floor, even though he should be able to change into a bat and fly out the window, based on my understanding of Dracula. but whatever, he has to work his way through the floors by taking. I guess you want him out of your house, maybe. So you got to take the invaders out as you work down through the place. So it sounds like one of the mechanics for that is activating traps that Dracula has as in the character, not you as the player, have set previously all over the castle, and then you can suck their blood once they're incapacitated by the traps. And that's pretty fun and different, you know, than just punching them or whatever. Right. It would be shooting some Dracula shit or something like most like the side-scrolling action platformers suggest it might be. But once you're outside of the castle, you then head into the village to capture your prized female, Maiden Mina. And this game, Jay, is sponsored by Reebok. Why is a Dracula game sponsored by Reebok? I don't know, but it is. If you know anything about Reebok in 1990, you know this is going to involve Reebok Pump athletic shoes.
Oh, I was going to say.
Jay, tell me about your first pair of pumps right now.
Oh, my gosh. I pumped them up so many times.
Of course.
First I had.
Which ones did you have?
I'm like, first I had like some knockoff pumps that like still pumped, but they definitely were not the actual pumps.
Oh man, bootleg pumps. Oh shit.
But then getting them, like you had to pump them up. Like I think mine were like black at first. Like I had like ones that were like mostly black because it was like different. Oh man.
I should have tasked you with this in advance so you could hunt them down, actually, because I found my pairs.
Oh, you did?
I have mucho things to say once I get into my pairs. So I'm sad that I didn't give you that opportunity to be able to. You'll hunt them down now. You should jot that down in your moleskin. Like... Find the pair. It feels good. To find the actual pair feels real good, Jay.
Oh man, let's take.
Okay, so just the one real pair, or did you have?
No, I only had the one real pair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know? Can you remember what grade you ran?
I don't. I want to. No, I don't. It had to have been in. It had to have been in like 7th or 8th.
Okay, so a little later. So okay, then you might have gotten the pair that one of the pairs I'm going to talk about then, because you're a year older than me. So yeah, I think you might. If you're you're talking 7th grade. I'm pretty sure I had mine in 6th. So here, okay. So in 4th grade. I had the neon yellow Twilight Zone pumps, Jay. And these I didn't recall until Googling around to find this, but these were technically the Dominique Wilkins shoes. Dominique Wilkins.
You had the Dominiques?
Yes. Which I don't know if that means anything to you, man, but I remember in 4th grade, rocking Dominiques meant I didn't remember that my shoes were the catalyst for this. And I guess I don't know for sure that they were because I don't remember that specifically. But I do remember it being a thing and getting into some shit about it, because if you were pro Dominique in 1990, that means you were anti Air Jordan and Michael Jordan. They were directly opposing forces, both in these shoes and I think just kind of dunk contest participation, kind of what the player meant. Dominique was a little older guard.
Right.
Yes. So
I forgot about that.
Yes, yes, they were opposing forces. So I, by aligning myself with Dominique, became anti-Jordan, and I remember this being a thing. I remember it being a fucking thing in 4th grade, dude. And it's even, like, it's because my best friend had the Air Jordans, they were on the 6 line at the time, and these were the ones that first came with the little red lace clips. If you remember those, the 2 holes in the tongue. Yes, I know. I also have the same thing. I know I have the same emotional thing happening to me right now just talking about this. But yes, so yeah, the first one, they give the little red clips, and kids probably got fucking stabbed over those in the playground. And I'm not exaggerating that. Like, I bet kids got hurt over kids taking these from them and shit. These were a thing, dude. Like, these shoes were as big of a fucking thing as a kid could have in their life. Those Jordans were such a thing, man. Such a thing.
I remember that, and I found my pair. So I remember having the black pair, but I also had like the original white, like mostly white with the black trim pumps. Like, I had those. Like, I'm looking at a picture of them right now. Like, I definitely.
Okay.
Whoa, with the big.
That's hot.
You actually had the orange basketball, but like it was mostly white. You know, because I remember scrubbing that bad boy with the toothbrush with soap and
did you have the kiwi fucking shoe shit that they sold at Foot Locker?
No, I did not have that.
Oh,
I had
man,
my own stuff at home, man. Like,
dude. Yeah, I had
too fancy for me, too bougie of cleaning.
Yeah, no, because dude, keeping those fuckers. I've told you before, even as a kid, like I told you my game cleaning kits and shit, dude. I was on it, dude. I was like, these are the important things. I'm preserving them.
We figured it out. There's a system, like there's a certain kind of bar of soap we had that was like plain white. Like that was like the cleaning. That was the cleaning bar, like with a toothbrush, an extra toothbrush. Oh man, you get it nice and clean on the leather.
That's great. So yeah, I had that opposing thing going on, and my buddy David Camargo had the black Air Jordan 6s, and I must have gotten enough shit in 4th grade. Because in 5th grade, I converted to the prevailing ideology, and I would get the white Jordan 6s, which are the tongue was still black with the 2 holes in it, and you still had the little red lace clips, but the rest of the shoe was white. And I would say even now in hindsight, those were vastly inferior to the all black ones. Not nearly as cool, but still cool, of course, but not as cool. And also a year old at that point, you know, and I wonder, I would love to know, because again, we've talked about, you know, when we talked about the one Atlanta episode about the kids and the fake FUBU and all that shit. Like the shit that matters to kids is so funny. But I wonder if the reason I got the white ones was because David had the fucking black ones, and I either had pressure to not get the same shoe, and that would have been that we talked about it, which is hilarious, that I was like consulting with friends at school about what shoe I might be getting going into back to school shoe shopping is hilarious to me. But that's the thing too. That's what we're saying. Back to school shop, like you were getting the shoes for the year. Like, dude, you were getting that one pair of shoes.
We got a whole nother podcast about this subject right now. I'm looking at the shoes and thinking about the back to school, the space I was in, especially early on. When you're not making a small decision. You're making an annual decision. Like, it's like when you're living in New York, that annual fucking apartment lease, like that level of life. Like, this is what it's going to be. Like, I need to make the right. Look at these and like,
I need to make the right decision here because I'm stuck with this for at least 12 months, for sure. Man. You know, so yeah, it's huge deal.
Oh man, my first Jordans were just like, oh, it's gonna be a good year, bitches. You know, just like. Oh my gosh.
Oh man, so good, so good. Yeah, so but I would like to make very clear too. So we're getting into. I'm referencing specific shoe names: the Twilight Zone Reebok Pumps, the Jordan 6s. I want to make it very clear. I am only able to cite these shoe names because I'm googling looking at Google returns while I type my notes up. I'm not a retro sneaker head. I am not anywhere near that psychotic to be collecting that shit or no. If you look at the eBay prices, when I was looking at the eBay prices of some of these shoes, dude, especially the OG ones, oh my God, the fact that people are paying that for fucking shoes is bonkers. So crazy. But they exist, and I have my own sicknesses, so we probably shouldn't talk shit. But so I had those Jordans in 5th grade, and then I would come back to the Reebok side by getting and this is gonna, I can't wait to look at your face while I say this, Jay. Listen closely to what I'm about to say to you. I got the black Dee Browns in 6th grade. And do you remember who Dee Brown was?
What? In 6th grade?
Yes, which would put you in 7th. And these are the ones I'm thinking you might have had, because these were a big shoe too.
Dude.
Are these the ones you had?
Or is this a shoe that I'm thinking about?
You would remember. Well, do you remember, while you're looking, do you remember who Dee Brown is?
Yes. Hold on.
Okay.
Is this? Yes.
Who is Dee Brown?
Yes, I had these.
Yes, I had these too.
Dude, yes. This one said the black ones. Yes.
Yes, exactly. Yes. I had
shoe.
the black ones of these too. There were white ones of these, but I also had the black ones. So, yes. Dee Brown was a highly touted draft pick of the Celtics that wasn't much for Team NBA basketball, but he did work his way into dunk contest fame by doing the dunk where he covered his eyes with the crook of his elbow.
Yeah.
And while already in flight and threw it down, right? So the shoe has a silhouette of him doing that was actually like on the bottom of it in this, like, you know, in the sole of the shoe. And I have stark ass memories of staring at that while doing stretches on the hardwood floor of my gym class in middle school in 6th grade. And Miss Steen was my gym teacher. Shout out to Miss Steen. Woo! EJ. Miss Steen was something in 1993.
With these black ones, yes.
So
anytime you had all black shoe at the time, anytime I could get an all black shoe to rock with like black socks, I was so excited. I was the Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Which
So
I wouldn't be caught dead in a black shoe now. It's funny.
Oh, I don't know. My LeBrons right now are crazy. They look crazy, man. They're like blue and like oranges. They look more like they look more like some stuff that like Turtle will go find on Entourage. From the dude who just like does them in his garage.
Yeah, no, I haven't bought a basketball. Well, that's not true. I have some basketball shoes from my gym shoes, but I'm like white tee all the time. Fuck it, like I buy the most basic looking of everything, and I cannot get into the basketball, like the ones that the players are wearing, like are so unappealing to me these days. They're so crazy looking.
I definitely had a hard time looking. I was definitely looking for something more basic, and I was like, man, this just. I guess I want basketball shoes. Just I was like,
basic as it'll get. Oh, well, yeah, that's an incredible tangent that, yes, could warrant its very own podcast episode, I'm sure. So about this Drax Night Out game, I'd never heard of it, and that's because it was never released, Jay, which raises the question, how did GamePro have a polished enough preview copy of this to give it a 76% rating? And just in general, I think it kind of sucks two of the first three games of their Halloween feature are nowhere near or never coming out, So they're doing a feature on games that are not applicable to shit you're going to be able to go buy right now, and that's bad magazine making, I think.
I mean, it's just whack altogether. They kick it off like pulling me in with Tales from the Crypt. There's no Tales from the Crypt game.
Yeah. Too much bait and switch. I don't like your bait and switch tactics, GamePro. It's bullshit.
I mean, give me Nintendo Power. This is not working. This is not working out.
Yep. We are, of course, going to get Bandai's Frankenstein in here, which has been out for a while, and it sucks. It's got a $44.95 MSRP and gets a 72% rating that is just 2 clicks higher than the Nintendo Power 70%, both of which are fucking insane and have been paid for by Bandai, in my opinion.
For sure.
But I guess they're paying both the same amount to get that same, whatever. But Data East Werewolf is next. This hits in November with The Last Warrior tacked onto the title, which isn't this issue, but I fucked up and did a bunch of research anyhow, so let's talk about it, Jay. The description of this game sounds absolutely bananas. It goes as such. This is not Universal Studios werewolf setting shit. It's a futuristic dystopia where, sorry, this is my words, not the magazine's. It's a futuristic dystopia where some big bad has unleashed biomonster death slaves unto the earth, and you play as Chief Warwolf, last of the werewolf line, which of course suggests a prior prominence for werewolves. That's worth noting. And I love the list of adversaries they rattle off, even toning it with the usual suspects first in the copy here. So they cite ninjas, great. Gun-toting soldiers, great. Bald-headed wrestlers, great. And bats. It's very appropriate to term those the usual suspects for a side-scrolling action game, which this, by the way, is. So yeah, those are enemies you definitely see in most games of that variety. They give it a 72 also, just like Frankenstein, with fours all the way through the important categories, gameplay, fun factor, and challenge. They do flat out call the graphics average in the text, but they point out the cinematics are pretty dope. $49.95 MSRP. Did you play it even though it wasn't out, Jay, by chance?
I did not, because it wasn't out, yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. So that's fair. I did fire it up. The cinematics are pretty lit, but otherwise the graphics and sound music are indeed blah. They also state in the mag feature that they don't throw anything at you here we haven't seen before, and that is also spot on. I think it's very much the quintessential rent it and forget it action platformer, So kind of a bummer.
It kind of looks like it would fall into that category.
Yeah. It's another one too though that had the post had its love. It got its love, And I can see that. There's some unique, endearing things. Like the story's kind of crazy. It actually, Lorik Disciple Mac weighed in and said that the North American release of the game came with a comic book. And I looked that up. It's a legit comic, dude. Links in the show notes if you want to look it up. But it's fucking pretty legit comic book to come with a. I don't know. I mean, I guess it had to be mini.
It's come with like a little small size,
to come in a box. It looks full size though, so they must have just scaled it well. But yeah, I
like freebies. Why not?
Yeah, for sure. Comic books.
And I like comics.
Give it to me. Yeah, that's a side tangent, but that's part of how I fell in love with those Sword Quest games on the Atari. Is that they came with the DC made the comics for them, so they were legit comic books and. That's the only way you would obviously know all the story that those games are supposed to have to them. So that was, at a time when you couldn't get that kind of storytelling in a video game. So very smart marketing tactic to make them a deeper game, Seismic's Hellfire for Genesis gets a full pager next, and with Whip Rush and Final Zone also having their ad drop a couple pages after this, I was lightweight hypothesizing that Sega's third-party developer subsidy that we discussed on Sega Visions 2 last MAGA might actually, I said that they weren't giving cash out, but for them to, all these companies be dropping ads into GamePro 2, there had to be some money to do that. GamePro wasn't giving these out for free, for sure. I don't give a shit what's it, So, yeah, maybe
they had to
Sega was giving. Yeah, maybe Sega was paying for this stuff for other entities too, and that's interesting. The Spooktacular finishes out with a couple titles not out yet. Hellraiser from Color Dreams, which we know never comes out from previous research efforts. And Zombie Nation, plus fuck that company also. And Zombie Nation from a company I've never heard of called Meldak. Zombie Nation doesn't hit till December, but it does appear to be mildly well-regarded, so hopefully we get reminded of it again down the line to give it a try. They then rapid-fire off a list of spooky-themed games they call the Old, and ISOH Game Ep alums are in here, Altered Beast, Fester's Quest, and Monster Party. And then there are some ones that are not warranting of Game Eps. Nightmare on Elm Street, of course, would be here. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Ghostbusters on Genesis, Ghostbusters 2 on NES, and then Godzilla, and then logically Splatterhouse for TurboGrafx 16 too.
The Old. That's funny.
Yes. The first dedicated NES ProView is ImageSoft's Dragon's Lair, a loosely ported Don Bluth property that surprisingly has never done anything for me. This is surprising because I was all in on just about every other thing this man was ever involved with. When I say Don Bluth, does that mean anything to you? Do you know?
I know the name. but like I'd have to look it up and then be like, oh yeah, he made that and that.
And that is exactly what would happen if you looked him up, Jay. So he started at Disney, which is not at all surprising to hear if you look at the style of animation, all his work. He started there as an animator on Robin Hood, which is easily one of my favorite Disney joints.
Oh, so good.
Yes, so good. That song, Robin Hood and Robin Hood and Little John go something hunting in the forest is one of my favorite Disney songs of all time. But just that whole movie, I had that on a fucking grandma dub tape, mixtape, VHS mixtape, and fuck is it good. Watched the shit out of it as a kid. And it's right there with Beauty and the Beast and Bambi, I would call my other two. Also Mount Rushmores, I guess, of Disney movies. But yes, he would then go off on his own to output absolute banger IPs like The Secret of Nim and American Tail and The Land Before Time. And then it was a little after my Disney or this type of cartoon thing, but All Dogs Go to Heaven was a big deal too that I know kids of the time very much got into.
See, I feel like Land Before Time belongs on if there was the Mount Rushmore of those. Land
dude,
Before Time is
those fucking Pizza Hut puppets, just everything about it. Oh my god,
give
dude.
it to me.
Oh, god, yeah. Littlefoot, fuck that, and yeah, that's a Bambi story too with the Littlefoot and his parent. Yeah, that's gut wrenching, illustrated or animated storytelling for sure. Very, 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 very good. And the Fievel ones too. The American Tales are also really good. So yeah, great animated filmmaker for sure. The Disney background is just so obvious in his work, and and I love when you can see the matrix like that on creative work. When you can look at someone's work and go, "Yep." For example, I had it earlier when I was the Boris Vallejo. His when I heard that he did all the Conan box arts and then also did the European or the Vacation box art, I was like, oh my god, how did I never see that correlation and Google it, because they are the same thing. It's just one's a comedy property and one's fucking Conan, it's the exact same picture. Fuck, so just so, I don't know, that's great. I love when that happens.
It's funny for me looking at this when I see that this Dragon's Lair ad. Just like the picture of that Dirk guy, that character, immediately I just think arcade port. It immediately transported me back. It's not I can't tell you the name of the game. I can't tell you the name of the story. I can't, but it's immediately I know that. I know that
cabinet.
I played that game. Well, yeah.
Yeah. And that's, it's because it is that arcade cabinet it's the stuff of arcade legend, because it was the first Laserdisc deal, and it was such a bad game because there is no game. It's just, you're just hitting a button at a certain time to advance the story. It's not even a game.
Yeah, it's what is it?
And they charged more for it. It's always like an elevated number of tokens to play.
Yeah.
It's just,
You're like, wait a minute. This one's 4?
Yeah, why? Yeah. And it's because it looks incredible. It's easy to get sucked into it. But when you get in there, you're like, oh, I got ripped off here.
So it's like this visual, oh yeah, it takes me back, but I don't want to play it.
Not a good memory. Yeah. Not a good memory. Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then this is obviously for the NES port, not the arcade cabinet. And this is the NES port is just a side-scrolling action deal. It's nothing like the arcade Laserdisc kit, and isn't out till December, so we're not going to play it yet. But it's a completely different type of game. And I actually have, since we're on the topic, my buddy AGB had the SNES game, which probably is very similar, I would guess, to the NES one in type, because it also was a side-scrolling action platform, but looked way better for obvious reasons, being on the SNES. And I kind of, I didn't love it, I don't think, but I think it was playable. I think I remember it being good. I'm pretty sure actually a lot of those Disney games on the SNES were all pretty good. The Aladdin I know is well regarded, so those, and this isn't Disney, I guess, but it's close enough. It's probably actually developed by the same company, would be my guess. We'll find out when we get there many moons from now in the SNES lineage. But I kind of remember it semi-fondly. So they have a $44.95 MSRP and for this, and it gets a 68% rating, which is not that great.
High ratings. Well, I mean,
that's not high.
Well, I guess when you look at it though, from a visual standpoint, color-wise, right? I'm thinking they got a red, they've got an orange, and yellows. It's better than seeing the purple and the the other color. whatever that other one was. But I agree. Like the fun and challenge are kind of the yellow. Like you'd hope to see that one higher.
Yep. We shall find out. It'll be out in December. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it in our Christmas themed episode. I'll have my sweater on. Next soft is
remember you heard it here. If he's not showing up in a sweater, rage in the comments.
Yeah, 0 stars rating on Apple iTunes or on Apple Podcasts. Next soft is porting over PC mega hit Wizardry Next, and the opening paragraph of this pro view is stellar, and I must read. There we were, sitting around Gilgamesh's tavern, having a few ales and wondering what to do with the rest of our weekend. It was just the 6 of us. Sir Charles, the pig-headed, Clorox, the Whitner, Bowlby the baggy, Oprah the interviewer, Merloon the unwashed, and Bob the healer. It wasn't long before our tavern talk turned into boasting, as tavern talk usually does. Sir Charles claimed he once journeyed through the dreaded realms of Mordor alone in search of a lost kitten. He said matter-of-factly. "That's nothing," shouted Merloon. "Why, I once fought a small blue dragon, and I was completely out of spell power. And so it went for hours, until some joker, I think it was Sir Charles, suggested we head down to the proving grounds of the Mad Overlord to really see who was the toughest. So now here we are, trapped in the dark, wounded, out of magic, and I think I hear some big nasty creatures coming around the corner. Whose bright idea was this, anyways?" And yes, that is as good as magazine copy gets in 1990. So they did this is, I think, to date, the best thing I've seen in a GamePro. That few paragraphs there, really, 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 really good. So this is a very good pro view on a game that I've only, I would say it's half jokingly brought up by Jab in our group chat this week, the idea of him dropping in for an impromptu cameo appearance to officially set the stage for this ongoing campaign to convince you to participate in a side quest on this near impossible gaming experience, because the game is rough. I think you don't need to worry. I'm in your corner as far as that goes. So just democratically, I don't think you'll get backed into this, but it is side quest only shit for sure. It's too much to even dream of playing for a game episode.
I'm like, at this point, I see that. I think you guys have like given me the opposite effect. I see that name and I immediately just want to stiff arm it. Like, we're not even talking about it.
You're not wrong in having that sentiment. They include maps of the first couple of floors here, and they look like legit hand drawn game maps, like that someone drew on graph paper. So
it does.
Big respect from me to the Game Pros on that, scanning those in here. And one of the pro tips in here is also kind of fucking incredible. I got to read this. Pro tip, the clever reset trick. A nifty trick you can do with Wizardry is to hit the reset button on your NES whenever your party is about to die or you're just generally in a bad situation. After you hit the reset button, choose the restart and out party menu selection. This sends your party back in time several turns before your run-in with death or another type of nastiness. And how insane is that, Jay? That they just straight up, you will need to cheat at this goddamn game.
Right?
Here's how to do it.
Like, is this really a pro tip? Like, we're calling it that.
Yeah, that's a life.
We all know what this is, man.
Yeah, that's a life hack, not a pro tip. Yeah, no, it's
hit reset, and it never happened. Like,
it's an intense game. It's got a whopping $54.95 MSRP for it, which I think is the highest we've ever seen for an NES game. So that's interesting. And they bestow a awfully fucking solid 80% onto it, I think. Dude. Again, you can tell just by the copy in this article that this game is this person's type of game, just because of the way they write about it. So that surely it's the biggest testament ever to all that shit they were saying about the rating system introduction in the letter from the editor, how it's subjective and someone's opinion, and take it with that in mind. I think that's very applicable to this, calling it an 80%, because it's a great game, and if you want this exact thing, this game nails bringing it to the NES. I agree, but I think from a more general perspective, 80% is probably high.
Dude, are you kidding me? The fact that you have someone who's already mapped out with the stencil paper.
Right, exactly right. Yeah, he's got
these
got
routes
the map
with a key with their own legend. The fact that that's necessary, I'm out. Like I can't even like much respect to you for doing that, but like that is not why.
But Jay,
my NES man,
you could have singed the edges of these maps if you had made your own.
But if I did that, I'd be cutting off valuable real estate.
No. This is just the scan. They cropped this. This is called magazine layout, Jay. I mean, there's plenty of room for your actual tangible copies. I don't want to make
edges. Stuff that I hate look nicer. You know, like that.
That's what I'm saying. Though you might not hate it if you had nostalgia for this game. Yeah. Ads for Jalico's Maniac Mansion and Saffel's Wall Street Kid for the NES are paired with that Pro View. I think it's very applicable, that they chose those two games to pair with this particular Pro View, because I think the kind of person that likes all, or is at least intrigued by one of them, is going to at least be intrigued by the other two also. And the Maniac Mansion ad is new. I dig the simple but cool art of a goofy face and the night sky above the mansion as the comet screams down towards it. That's pretty fun. And then the Wall Street Kid ad is the same box art illustration we've seen numerous times, but they have tacked on a COD mail order form at the bottom, and it is $49.95 plus shipping and handling. California residents add sales tax, and no information or formula is provided for calculating that total amount, and that's because COD was a fucking insane thing. And did you ever order any shit like this back in the day? Do you have any COD memories?
I just remember always that term, hearing it all the time. COD. Did it like be like, man, that's always an important thing.
Yeah, the infomercial type.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
but I never ordered
deals.
That. You kidding me?
Always had. Oh man. Okay, so yes, you mail this in. Let me explain COD to kids today. And holy fuck, is this sit down? I hope you're sitting down when you listen to how this flowchart of things. So you mail this in with no payment info at all. No check, no cash, no credit card info, nothing. You fill out this little form, you put it in an envelope, you steal one of your parents' stamps, you send it to this place. And in they quote, in this particular case, it wasn't always, obviously delivery windows are different. I feel like 8 weeks was a much more frequent, 6 to 8 weeks was a much more frequent.
6 to 8 weeks
delivery.
For sure.
Yeah. Allow 6 to 8 weeks for delivery was a very, also one of those infomercial terms, I feel like. But in this case, they're quoting a 2 to 4 week delivery window here. But 2 to 4 weeks is a fucking wide gap of time, right? So in this 2 week window from when you fire this fucker off, you don't know when it's going to happen, but at some time in that 2 week window, if they're right, and like, I'm sure I'm going to spitball a percentage, 33% of the time, I bet it didn't happen in that 2 to 4 week window. I bet it was outside of that on one side or the other. In that 2 to 4 week window, a random UPS guy is going to show up and knock on your door and expect you. He's going to look you in the eye and in all genuine honesty, expect you to have exact change on whatever the fuck that unknown total turned out should have been with the sales tax and or shipping added in. You're just supposed to have that money in exact denomination laying around your house.
On delivery, folks.
Yeah, exactly. And he's not going to have change because, and I don't know why, but I don't know, who knows, But I think I'm remembering that correctly. I think I remember having to just give the guy 20s, See, I remember buying a bunch of like Buffalo Bills shit, like these plaques. I don't know if you remember these or ever saw them, but I remember buying from, I think, my Shout newspapers, the Bills newspaper that I subscribed to in like 9th-ish grade, maybe. You could buy I bought a Bryce Pop one where it was like, it's a wooden plaque with a big 8x10 photo that came in these 8x10 photo top loaders, just like they had for football cards. They were just like that, same exact thing, but big enough for an 8x10 photo. And that not autographed or anything, just a photo of Bryce Pop. And then a little shitty fake metal plate down below the picture that said Bryce Pop on it. And I bought that for probably a funny amount of money. And I remember buying that COD back then, which is hilarious, Oh my God. And I also remember in High Times, the High Times magazines we used to get a hold of. Yeah, for my weed smoking phase, I remember ordering bongs and they would always be COD because no one wanted to fucking No one wanted to put their name down or their real shit down for a bong coming in the mail, Even though it's coming to your fucking house, like you're not fooling anybody.
I always wondered how businesses like that work. Like, how are you shipping stuff? Like,
well, they had to call it. It was tobacco. That's how it was. They were tobacco pipes,
funny.
And all it was like it was. They had to in all the marketing stress that it was for tobacco use only, and it was always like in big bold letters and shit, But yeah, we know that no one's buying no one's buying bongs for tobaccos, bro. For tobacco smokes, bro. Yeah. Oh, just so wild. Just such a wild concept. That whole thing, that you could do that and it comes and the guy asking you to give him money, like that's just fucking insane by modern standards. But It was how things were done at the time. So Konami's Mission Impossible gets an 80% rating, and we saw this a while back and talked about it, but it's quoted at a $43.95 MSRP to close out the NES joints, and then into Genesis Pro views with Activision-released, Razorsoft-developed Mondu's Palace, aka Slaughter Sport, is the first up of those. And the artwork they dialed up for this is primo, just like we speculated it might be, and I really like that. They give this game an 84% rating and a $49.95 MSRP, as mentioned here, and that seems crazy high to me. I mean, I told you, have you tried it yet? Because you couldn't find it before. Have you tried it now?
Right. No, I didn't do it this time.
Still haven't. Okay, yeah, it's fucking. They explain more about the game in here than I was able to experience.
Discussion. Yeah.
Right. So I couldn't even get a foothold in that first battle. I got my ass kicked, even though they say he's a pushover here in the fucking copy. But, I would have speculated they didn't talk about this in the Sega Visions, which is bad job by Sega Visions. Good job by GamePro, I guess. But they talk about a bunch of wacky shit that I did not see. The money you can earn from the fights, you can buy spells for your characters, so like actual magic. And one of them they mention here is a conjuring of a swarm of bees that will fuck your opponent up. So unexpected. That's a crazy ass mechanic. Spells at all, then the fact that one of the spells is just implementing a swarm of bees that's going to attack your opponent mid-fight is pretty wild. And then it says you can get codes to play as monsters instead of just the guy that you play when you start the game normally. And one of those skills that the monsters has, or one of the monsters has, I should say, is detaching your own leg and beating the shit out of your opponent with it. So, so on and so forth.
So
there's
wacky.
Yeah, there's just a lot of crazy shit in there, just like you would expect it to have based on everything that I was able to experience. But it was just, fucking wild. Just a wild game. And again, I just can't stress. I can't believe I missed it as a kid. I wasn't going to let this title fly by again without doing some additional research on Razorsoft, though. So I dove into that. The actual development of these games, Slaughter Sport and Technocop, was done by a subsidiary of Razorsoft's called Punk Development. And even that name, my God, does that add up, right? That they call that the company that made these games or cooked these games up is called themselves Punk Development. Makes total sense. And that company was founded by a guy named Jeff Spangenberg, and he would be the dude I'd expect to have the debilitating coke habit behind these games that I talked about in the Sega Visions episode. So Jeff and his disciples would sever from Razorsoft in 1991 and start a new studio by the name of Iguana Entertainment. Does that name mean anything to you, Jay?
That sounds familiar. Why?
Yes, it should. It should sound very familiar because I immediately remembered their logo from NBA Jam, which is their yes. It's their biggest title by far. But they had some other big boys. They did NFL Quarterback Club, which is the game behind my crazy ripping stickers off Nintendo 64 games and putting them on other cartridges and taking them back to Babbage's. Like that's the game that I took back to Babbage's to get Madden 99. But they also did Arrow the Acrobat. They did Batman Forever. They did Frank Thomas's Big Hurt Baseball.
So you're saying this was a warm-up card for them when they were just figuring stuff out.
Yep. Basically, they would go a little more mainstream. But yeah, they would get acquired by Acclaim in 95 and then liquidated in Acclaim's bankruptcy in 2004. And yeah, that on NBA Jam, that opening credit card was like an iguana laying on the side next to the Iguana Entertainment logo, kind of in like, I don't know, Windows screensaver kind of 3D text fashion, and the basketball was bouncing, I want to say, or bounces across the screen or some shit like that. Or actually, he might have been spinning on his finger. I think the iguana might have been spinning on his finger while he's laying down, if I recall correctly. But yeah, very memorable title card, I guess, company logo card. And so after that Acclaim bullshit liquidation, he would
Wait a minute. Time out. We're going to put some respect on Acclaim's name. Okay. Acclaim has came out with many hot games.
Dude, but that's sheer volume though. That's not percentage. The percentage is not good. Yes, they released so many games and were so big that yes, some of them they hired good development studios like this studio to make good games.
I'm like, are we disrespecting the Double Dragon 2 people?
But they also acquired LJN and all those shitty LJN games. They also acquired they did a lot of bullshit licensed schlock, just like LJN, which would get.
I'm like, they were Mortal Kombat. Like, okay, I'm like, you got to respect.
Yeah, no, and I would say. I would say their 16-bit era was much better than their 8-bit era too. Yeah. So I think right. Yeah. So no, I'm not saying it's all junk. I'm simply saying they had a lot of junk because of they were a sheer volume studio for sure. They did a lot of fucking of shit. So this Retro Studios that this Jeff Spangberger also founded is. By 2000, they had secured the Metroid series from Nintendo, which is kind of wild if you think about that.
What?
Nintendo was licensing that out, which is part of why probably Metroid's always been like a weird bastard child property for Nintendo. It's never been quite Zelda, Mario type tier stuff, even though it is like
it's like one right up there. It's
like exactly. It's just one below. Right. Just one click lower, right? But yeah, they licensed this out and starting with the Metroid Prime game on GameCube, which I owned, and it's revered as being a very, very, very good, well done Metroid game, and that's the first one that brings it into a 3D space. I just listened to some podcast that actually did a spot on it and kind of relived that experience. But yeah, so this company, it's interesting to me that there's that through line, that it has all those, connective tissues to things that I danced around or partook in, but these their first titles are crazy. Crazy. I still don't want to play Slaughter Sport though. It wasn't good. So the last Genesis Pro View is Renovation's Whip Rush, and this is one of the many shmups we liked from Sega Visions issue 2. They give it a 72% respectable Pro View rating. And then comes the latest Genesis Does advertising Palooza, a record-setting 5-banger this time, 5 pages, and they give us a What Nintendo Don't feature on Sword of Vermilion as their marquee title. And they have some new screenshots that we haven't seen, and the biggest of those is a side-scrolling action-looking deal I did not see in my brief diddling with it. Like, we talked about this in the Sega Visions episode, and I kind of mentioned that I had fucked with it. It was kind of plain Janey, and like there wasn't much to it. But I didn't see any of this. So, including there's that, and there's also some over-the-shoulder third-person windowed screenshots that I did not see when I played it. So I'm thinking this game might have a lot more going on in it than it lets on immediately. Kind of not unlike Adventures of Link type shit, multiple gameplay modes, and that makes me want to kind of back off we don't need to ever talk about side questing this. This is actually the game. Seeing this is actually what led to me making that list that I need to put Swords and Serpents on. Is making sure we don't let anything get lost, fall through the cracks, and we never stop talking about games that weren't talking about for our side quest series. So
I mean, it's intense though. Like you're talking about 300 hours of gameplay.
We talked about that.
All of that. You know what I mean?
Insane. That's insane.
It still sounds daunting.
That's not accurate. That's fucking bullshit. There's no
like I will agree. I will agree. Like even taking a look at it again for this episode, it's like, all right, like it does look like it could be cool, but then reading through this, I'm like, man, I don't know. That's a lot.
Yeah. But that's why that's what side quests are supposed to be a lot. That's exactly why we do them there in that venue, because a lot is applicable. And the last 2 pages are new of this Genesis spread here. The first page is 5 big CRTs featuring 5 titles: Joe Montana Football, Super Monaco GP, Pat Riley Basketball, Buster Douglas Boxing, and Bejeweled. Columns. Second page is a cutout coupon you can mail in with a Genesis purchase receipt from September 15th through October 31st for a free game, any of those 5 on the first page here. And that is an unreal deal, man. These are not
nuts, right?
Yeah, these are not bullshit carts at all.
I'm like, let's relook at this again. Like, are you kidding me? Like, if I'm a kid, Like, I want to play Buster Douglas boxing, or like, I would take that all day.
That's probably the worst one I would say here. And it's funny, there's, not any. It's not a bad deal. I'm saying, you don't have to cover the shipping. They just send you the game, which most of this kind of thing, like, even that dumbass Technocop poster ad in the Sega Visions required you to pay the postage on your fucking poster. Yeah. So the idea they didn't make you pay shit this is a good deal. But so it's still a great deal, but they do reserve the right to substitute Buster Douglas boxing in the event they run out of one of the good games on here.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a free game.
It's still a good. It's for free. I'll play Buster Douglas boxing, no doubt, happily. But I'd rather play one of the other four.
Yeah, I'd rather have columns.
yeah, I'd rather have columns. The basketball and football titles they've been pimping out for a long time now, but they still aren't out. November for Riley and December for Montana. So the next time we talk about anything Sega, because we've done the Sega Visions that covers prior to this, the next Sega Visions and or the next GamePro, we'll have Pat Riley, so we'll finally get to play some basketball 16-bit jam, and that will be fun for sure, because we haven't had one of those yet. At least that I can, right? We don't have a 16-bit basketball yet, do we? No, yeah, I don't think so. And then December for Montana, which I'm also excited about, because that is a game I like, even though it's not quite Madden as far as the quality goes, but it is interesting, and I'll enjoy talking about it and playing it when we get there. The lone SMS title is Super Monaco GP, which gets a whopping 80% rating, but why the hell would you play the SMS version right now when you can play the Genesis one? Unless your parents didn't love it.
Yeah, I was going to say. Out of necessity, I saw you.
Right. Yeah, there's some tired NES full pagers before Sega spends even more dough with their 17 new third-party developers 2-page spread. And that was also in the Sega Visions issue 2. There is one new one here, though, I didn't recognize, and they just have a coming soon in place of the screenshot, so I'm sure it wasn't there in that issue. But it's Micronet's Caesar, and this is a top-down strategy deal that will be released as Warrior of Rome in February of 91. So it's a ways off before we need to fucking dip our toes into some strategy waters here. It's a 16-bit console deal, and, as much as I might have liked them at the time, they always are rough sledding on the controls front with these console iterations, but interesting one nonetheless. After these messages,
we'll be right back.
The equipment. Power Glove for your NES. The power behind the hottest video games. The game, Super Glove Ball. Your entrance into an electrifying maze, only the fastest will survive. Buy Power Glove now and you'll receive a free Super Glove Ball game back by mailing proof of purchase to Mattel by April 30th, 1991. The Power Glove and free Super Glove Ball game from Mattel. An offer too powerful to refuse.
I have such a love-hate relationship with the Schmauer Dove, Jay. I think maybe I should talk to someone about it. And that commercial makes me think of that. So makes me self-reflect about that.
It just had so much promise. It looked so cool, and it was such an item of, like, you just wanted it. An object of desire.
Yeah, such a sparkly thing, but oh man, did the luster wear off up close. The only T16 Pro View is first up here, and it's Dragon's Curse. And this incompetent fucking psychopath reviewer, David Winstead, makes not one passing mention that this is an exact one-for-one port of ISOH alum Wonder Boy 3, The Dragon's Trap, on SMS. And how could you do that? How could you do a whole piece on this and not bring that up? How could you do that?
Yeah, when I looked at it, I was like, wait a minute. Didn't we? I immediately knew.
That is fucking exactly what it is. They give it a solid 8% on the rating, and that's encouraging. And the MSRP is rather inoffensive at $48.99 by TurboGrafx 16 standards. And I was presuming this would be dope as fuck on the TurboGrafx. A great middle ground between the SMS version, which we liked, and I 100% enjoyed that experience, but it was very SMS-y. And a true modern remaster, and I loved that, the idea of that to me was very appealing. And I wouldn't call it a 1-for-1. Your protagonist sprite is a little different, which is why they refer to you in the copy here as it's such a ripoff. If you look at the character in particular, it's clearly such a ripoff. But it's Who-Man, so HU-MAN instead of He-Man, HE-MAN. So nice fucking try there, whoever did this. But they replace Wonder Boy with that. So Sega, I guess, wouldn't let. It's probably out of necessity,
like an IP issue,
right? Yeah, they probably wouldn't let Wonder Boy, because that Wonder Boy was kind of their one of their potential developing mascot options. So they're probably like, we'll give you the game, but you got to change the dude, and you can't be Wonder Boy. Yeah, so that's interesting, I think. But yeah, otherwise it's exactly the same game. The better music and the graphics, honestly, are kind of disappointingly not. It's exactly the same. Like it's not. They did not. I don't feel like they. I guess what I'm saying here is they did not take advantage of the better hardware. I don't think with the TurboGrafx to improve the look of the game. Generally speaking, it's very identical, I think. So that was kind of a bummer. But it is. I mean, if you didn't have an SMS and you did have a TurboGrafx, you should have bought this game because it's a good game still, just like Wonder Boy is.
That's super disappointing, though. This feels like a backwards port then. Because, like, looking at these screenshots in the mag, it doesn't look impressive. I was wondering, because I knew you were going to say you played it. I'm like, does it look better? Because this doesn't look anything special like TurboGrafx.
Exactly the same. It felt exactly. It was wild. I mean, everything. The movement felt. It was. I get that might be its own testament, because usually you port across system to systems, and it's just something's a little different. It's gonna feel a little different. Like it felt exactly the same. It was fucking wild. So, in some regards, good, but I expected it to have improved with the port to some degree, and it didn't do that. A glorious Sunsoft NES spread hits next. ISOH alums Batman and Fester's Quest headlining here, but we also have Blaster Master, Journey to Silius, and the Game Boy Batman. And that carries us into everybody's favorite segment, Jay's Atari Corner! Tell them what they've won, Jay. It looks like a shmup.
Oh my gosh, meltdown. It is definitely a shmup. This is definitely not a game that I played growing up, but like it's not even a game. It's the type of game that I would have seen at the neighborhood flea market or at a garage sale, you know what I mean? And you're like, I don't know what this is, but I don't have it.
But it's here.
Right? There's a game here.
Like the rest of my Atari existence. It's fucking here. So yeah, I guess.
So, I'm going to do it. Like one of the pro tips talks about a continuous shot weapon. Like that's always an option that I'm going to want involved in a game. So, it's something, again, you put it in front of me, I'm going to enjoy it, but like, I'm definitely not going to go back and try it out. And
did not fire it up. Did not try it.
No, I looked at this and I'm just like, this is just going to be disappointing. Like, I know I didn't play it as a kid. Like, there's 100% no, I didn't play it as a kid. And so looking at it, I'm just like, this is going to make me sad. And I say that, this as a man who has such fond memories of the Atari and games that I 100% fire up. And the ratings on this are not good. And I looked at this. I even looked at a video and I'm like, I just can't, man. Cause it's going to be another reason that make me not want to pick up the next Atari game. I do want to play because there's that. It's always worse. It's always worse, sadly, than I remember.
Yes, you're right. They give it a lowly 56% on the rating, which is not good. But the MSRP is a fitting $29.95, which I guess maybe actually is not fitting by. If it's bad by Atari 7800 standards, that's probably not a good MSRP. But if you just put it into the rest of the marketplace for the other systems, that sounds good. $30 for a new game. Quotations sounds good. Yeah. I love that. I don't know if we've seen this yet, but they try to pair a little 7800 advertising with this since they have the attention of so many Atari enthusiasts with that 56% banger shmup that they have the ProView on. And it's an Ikari Warriors full pager. And this is a great ad. It's one of the new games for the Atari 7800. Try it if you're man enough. And then it's got a dope-ass illustration. I love the M16 magazine in his vest pocket, like somebody might have a pack of smokes loaded up for quick deployment, Did you play this one?
Dude, I'm ecstatic looking like playing this. I'm just like, I'm excited to see in a 7800 ad. Like, I'm a full page one. Like, when do you see that?
Right.
You know, and I'm gonna fire it up because, of course, this is a title I've heard of. So yeah, it's Akari Warriors. I mean, we've talked.
Is it better than the NES one?
Of course,
The NES. Really, the NES one is really bad. So
it's.
I still like it. I still own it. I own the cart. I like it, and I still say it's bad. So
I still like it. It's not great. It's
No,
not
it's-
great.
it's-
That's not great.
okay,
You know,
okay.
it's kind of what you would think of in terms of your Double Dragon, where like, yeah, if this is the only version you have, you're playing it, you're like,
I guess
right,
it.
You know?
I guess it counts.
Yeah,
I
it's
guess
working.
it counts.
It's working. But then you play the NES version, it's like, yeah, this one's better though. You know?
Yeah. I love the headline at the bottom there. The boys are making house calls. That's a great piece of copy.
Yeah. Oh, Akari Warriors.
Yep. All the Game Boy Shiat comes next. Previews on DuckTales, Ashido, and Mercenary Force, and the latter gets a 92% rating, which I'm only bringing up a Game Boy rating because this is our first time seeing them in the magazine, and it seems a little wild to me for a Game Boy title of any kind to be 92%, but I guess that's probably unfair, and I'd never heard of it or fucked with it, but that seeing that rating made me read the copy and kind of see what the game was, because I had no familiarity with it whatsoever. So I was reading through this, and it actually does sound like there's some deeper RPG strategy shit.
It
paired
does
with
seem
action.
RPG, right?
Right. So it seems like something that actually it might be really fucking good. So I can put that down too for my game.
I feel like they just I feel like they didn't know what they were doing. Like, because even when you read the copy, it talks about like leading a band, like challenging shoot 'em up, but then they talk about leading a small band, and you look at it and you're like, wait, this doesn't look like a shoot 'em up. This
right.
Like, you might be shooting, but this feels more RPG. This feels more that there's, that this is not that game. That's not what you lead with.
Definitely a lot of layers. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it might. Between that and that's the only other rating in the whole magazine that's higher than that is Castlevania 3.
That's crazy.
And they're not wrong about Castlevania 3 at all. So to put it in the same echelon as that is wild for any Game Boy game, but particularly wild for a game I've never heard of, So,
I'm a little surprised that it's so much higher. I'm surprised that's higher than DuckTales. I would think DuckTales would be the...
Yeah, I actually couldn't remember. I need that put right there. I got too many notes. Fucking too many notes. But I don't think I've ever played the DuckTales on Game Boy.
But yeah, I was going to say I didn't have it on the Game Boy.
It looks good.
On the Game Boy either.
Yeah, it looks good, but is it also Capcom? Yeah, Capcom, yeah. So yeah, the Mega Man Game Boy version is pretty good. So Capcom does okay with taking this kind of game from NES to Game Boy. So, maybe it's good. But yeah, it's definitely not. They definitely don't rate it as high. I'll check them out. Full pagers, though, or through here, are some NES Acclaim bullshit with Bigfoot and then Total Recall, as well as an NES Capcom joint I was unfamiliar with. Street Fighter 2010, The Final Fight. This is the article, or the artwork behind me. And so let's talk copy first, just story setup. The whole thing started when you invented this radical formula that turns men into supermen, and someone stole it. You have to fight some very deadly interplanetary characters to get it back, and that's just for starters in Street Fighter, one of the toughest games for Nintendo ever. And kind of sounds like a story some asshole would tell you at a bar. Like some drunk would tell you. It's like a crazy ass story. And I like that, and we'll explain why this is significant, I think. They use the verbiage, one of the toughest games for Nintendo ever. I think is supposed to be a veiled double entendre. And that's funny and interesting to me. But August 8th was the highly specific release date for a rando title that I'd never heard of. And I thought that was interesting that we actually had, most games you can't get a specific date for, so that's interesting in of itself. But I fired it up. The opening cinematic and story setup for this game is batshit wild. Like, if you read all this shit, I posted the whole video on our socials. It's like 2 minutes, some shit they spend setting this story up. And you just absolutely have to love Capcom for doing this, because it's nuts. But yeah, I don't know. You didn't need. I don't know. You don't need it, and it means nothing. But so here's a little excerpt from it that I thought worth reading. As Ken had no interest in the frontier. Then his partner Troy was killed. Someone broke into their lab, stole their invention, and left Troy as a pile of jelly on the floor. It's been 25 years since Ken was king of the Street Fighter circuit, but that's nothing some bionics can't fix. And that's just the very first paragraph on this Star Wars text roll they give you before the start of the game. And then it only gets crazier from there. The story turn on, it's been 20, like, you know, it's this shit about the lab and stuff. And then it just, like, there's no, blank on the fucking word. There's no, like, logically there's no connective tissue between that and then the fact that this inventor was a street fighter, a king of street fighting 25 years prior. Like, the fact that there's no segue there, that's the word I was searching for, is crazy. That's batshit writing. That is crazy writing. I like crazy writing, but that is crazy writing. So the story setup is wild, but then getting into the game itself, I mentioned it when we were talking about the Ninja game earlier. Like, this has some really nimble controls for an NES game. Like, it's you know what it is? It's what Strider should have been for the NES. Man. You know, like, it should have had this level of, like, the wall climbing and, like, when you are flipping up from a platform or from below a platform up onto it, like that little swing animation is really good for 8-bit animation, I think. And yeah, all that feels really good and looks really good, but I couldn't even kind of beat this first dude. Did you? Because it starts and it feels like you're going to play a side-scrolling action platformer, but it's not. It's like this arena thing. It's just a big arena. And you fight this dude in the first one that kind of reminded me of Firefly from Batman, the first boss in Batman, you know? Kind of this flying dude that does these swoops and shit and has some projectile bullshit, I think. But yeah, it's you played it, I presume.
So, yes, to directly answer your question, yes, I played it. No, I did not beat the first boss.
Okay.
But
good. I'm not alone. That's good.
It's funny to indirectly answer your question. It's funny to hear you talk about this game as if you'd never heard of this game. So my first exposure with this game was after playing Street Fighter 2. The good Street Fighter, the worldwide phenomenon.
So in like the 90s?
Yeah. So like in like 92 or whatever, you know, so like somehow like I get this card like as a rental, clearly, you know, and I'm looking at this,
thinking you're going to get a Street Fighter 2 experience
and I'm like,
on your
like
NES?
a futuristic, like, you know, because at that point there had already been Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, you know, like all this kind of expansion, like it's blown up, like you find us at the arcade. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. Street Fighter 2010, it's Ken. You know what I mean? He's in the future.
Yeah, they've got the name. Yeah, it's fucking nuts.
So,
I don't know. It's crazy.
I'm getting this game and I'm like,
well, it's Capcom too. I didn't make that connection. That fucking
dude.
So they're using. They're
like
oh my
you're
god,
looking at
dude.
this in a complete. I'm looking at this in the vein of like this is a straight up spin off of Street Fighter 2.
Oh my god,
this is so whack compared to that. What are we doing? Like
well, compared to fucking
remotely like live up.
You can't compare any NES experience to. I mean, God.
But that's what I mean. Like in my mind, like that's what like, and even at the time, and it actually, yeah. The more I'm thinking about it, it was probably. I had been playing Street Fighter 2 in the arcades since this clearly came out before.
Yeah. I was going to say,
in the timeline, but I don't know that at the time.
Right.
I'm playing Street Fighter 2 in the arcades whenever that first debuted, and then I got a Nintendo, and I'm like, oh, and I see this, and I'm like, what the hell is this, man?
That's exactly what happened.
Mario Atari switcheroo situations. Like, what are we doing?
Yep.
So I can't even give this game a chance because to me it's like my memory of it from
just too betrayed. It's like my X-Men experience, the LJ and X-Men. It's like no, don't even don't bring it up. I'll don't even lose my mind.
Like we're not playing it. Like
it's not happening.
Do it.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I did. Yeah, it's. You know, I had those difficulties and I posted shit about it, and the Lord disciples were up in arms about the difficulty of this game. I guess it's like it's
not easy, man. It's
real motherfucker, and it's weird to hear that because, like I said, the controls feel fantastic. So I don't think it's like shitty NES video game bullshit that makes it hard. It's intended, actual layered difficulty. You know, so. That's interesting because that kind of game, at least you get again the crime in video game difficulty on an 8-bit system is when you can't even see the path to success.
Yeah.
When you can see the path and you just can't get there because it's hard within like a reasonable set of physics is much harder to deal with and much harder to just dismiss, you know what I mean? And the game looks beautiful. I mean, look at that picture behind me. It's fucking immaculate. That sun setting on like a futuristic dystopian
I wanted
NYC.
to like it. For all the above reasons, I wanted to like it.
Yeah,
I really did.
That's interesting that you have that visceral emotional problem with it. That'll make our conversation that I think might happen later more difficult. Okay, so next we get SWAT hot tips, and I know you don't like to talk about Ultima, Jay, but I love this one for Ultima 4 on SMS from Casey Stringler in Saskatchewan, and the title of this is Get Lots of Money, and the tip reads, to get lots of money, go into Lord Bridges' castle, find the guard's room, go into the secret door, and collect the money. You may repeat this as many times as you want and collect lots of money. And if you say money one more fucking time, it's such perfect or emblematic child writing, I guess.
I'm like, this is definitely a kid, 100%.
Yeah, really, really good. And I also like the Mega Man 2 one from Justin Crow in Gunter, Alabama. Kind of fun. Tells us that if you hold A and B while pressing the D-pad to select the robot you want on the stage select screen, and then you hit start to select them, when it cuts to that little interstitial that you get where they do the robot does their shit talking before the stage starts, the background that is normally a star field becomes those little cheap birds, the ones that come out of the eggs.
I've actually used this code before.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know this existed.
This is a favorite code of mine because it's such a random thing and it's more like it's cosmetic and it's like, I think I found this. This appears later on in like a Nintendo Power magazine. Okay, I know I didn't get it from here, but
yeah. Yep. No, it has no benefit at all. It's all just aesthetic fun. Yeah. I enjoyed it quite a bit. This is one of your fucking greatest games ever. So that's fun for me to hear that you knew about this.
Oh yeah.
Word. Another fun one is the Zoom debug reveal code, which allows you to actually watch the game programming code scroll by as you play the game, like in a window to the right, And as a kid, dude, I'd have been fascinated by this, man. I probably would have tried to hack into the fucking mainframe with this. It's fucking, just really, really cool. Again, no benefit to you whatsoever, but to a kid into
I wonder if you could learn how to code, like if you just like studied that intensely and been like,
probably,
obviously you'd have to have some kind of semblance of the tool set to use.
That'd have been a great, you need development, all that shit. But just as a way to pluck the curiosity strings of a kid with an inclination towards this type of shit. It's just such a fun thing to exist and to bring out in the magazine here. Again, I would have just been I would say that is something I've talked about before, how, like basic programming on the Atari 2600. Like that cartridge, I didn't even have the keyboard. I had the cartridge that I stole from somewhere, I think, and I wanted so badly to be able to program in BASIC and learn how to program a game on my Atari so badly that I stole a cartridge I couldn't use just because that's how badly I wanted to, engage that type of thing, like hack into the mainframe. I didn't know I wanted to call you that yet, but that's what I wanted to do, even at age fucking 6 or 7 or whatever it would have been. And I would say that seeing this in the magazine and being able to see that might have been enough. It's speculation. There's no way to know, but might have been enough to get me to get that game. At least rent it just to check that out. Like that is curious enough of a thing to make me do that. I think it was fucking really, really pretty fun. Fun side tangent to this topic, Jay. I watched Running Man this past week, which one of my favorites, the Arnold flick. It's one of my favorite Arnold flicks. Yeah, it one of my favorite movies ever, even before what I'm about to explain occurred to me watching it this week. But it occurred to me while watching that I think a big part of why I loved it as a kid is how many times the nerd guy says he's got to hack into the satellite uplink. That exact line of dialogue. And so he says that so many times. He says the phrase satellite uplink so many fucking times in the first, because he dies. He's the first one that dies. So probably he dies at probably the midpoint of the movie. Knowing how film scripts work, I'd guess he dies at the midpoint. And he says that so many times. But before he dies, he has that scene with the girl where he's trying to hack into the satellite uplink, and it's like the interface that they used, like the computer interface that they show, is like this thing where these kind of things are coming out of it, and like he's reading off like hexagonal code to her, and that's her whole role in the movie, is that she's able to remember the code that he gives her after the nerd dies, so she can repeat it later when Arnold has to put the fucking code in to hack into the satellite uplink.
She's the code remember.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's the code remember. That's her utility in the narrative. So yeah, it's just, oh god, it's just the interface is so great. Hack into the satellite uplink, let's do it. Just yeah. As an adult, I also love it for all the astute RoboCop tier social satire and how gloriously 80 it is. And dude, that movie. When's the last time you watched that movie?
Oh, it's been years.
It's on. You can watch it on YouTube with ads right now. Watch it for free on YouTube. It's so good. But there's nothing in the history of human creation as 80s as that movie. It is apex 80s in every possible way. It's so good and so 80s. It's so beautiful. It's just a beautiful piece of everything. It's so good. So good. All the effects, Arnold being Arnold with like one-liners to the max. It's this futuristic, like, you know, nothing dates a movie more than a movie portraying their vision of the future.
Dude,
like it's the 80s version. It's the 80s version of portraying the future. It's fucking magnificent.
I couldn't even remember the name of the movie, but I remember that movie decades later as an adult. Like a couple years ago, I remember like, what was it that came out? Another movie came out, and I was like, "Is that the movie? Is that the movie?"
Total Recall,
about?
probably Total Recall.
And I was like, no, it's not
Total Recall is very close.
I was like, what's the other movie? It's like, what is it? It's like,
Yeah.
was it Blade Runner? What is that movie? Like, I just it wasn't until I like really searched, and I was like, that's the movie, because it's such. To your point, like it's such a visceral reaction. Like I remember that. Like
Total Recall is good too. The original Total Recall is also really good in the same. That was like that was early 90s.
More 90s.
It's a little later, but still very good. Still very, very good. And also Arnold to the max for sure. A lot of ads in here. We have Dragon Warrior 2 full pager. Got to get rolling on our next side quest. By the way, I just finished yesterday everything. I'm going to send out the outline. Probably I was working on it a little bit before we jumped on here. So very soon I will have a plan for us, and I'll be curious to hear whether what you guys do, which is why I was asking in the group thread, whether it even comes close to what I'm outlining, because I think we're in a phase of the game, like I told you, is like it's Wild Wild West what we do next, I think, in my opinion. So it'll be interesting to see how well those things line up. The Tecmo ad that we've seen a bunch is in here with both Ninja Gaidens, Bad News Baseball, Tecmo Bowl, and Tecmo Wrestling. The Koei Strategy War Sim lineup ad is in here. And then one of those really dope Trapper Keeper pastel Toys R Us ads featuring Game Boy with the headline, "Get a Grip," is in here. And more shit we've seen for Low G-Man and Dick Tracy get us to Ask the Pros, where we see little blurbs on Mega Man 2, Super Mario Bros. 3, Spellcaster, and Wonder Boy 3 on SMS are here. And they're all nothing we don't already know, or in the case of Spellcaster, care about. So, Pro Shots is what we're talking about. And Dragon Warrior 2 is here as well, and the story they tell you is flat out fucking wrong. Did you read this?
Yes.
It's wrong. It's fucking flat out fucking wrong. Peace and tranquility prevail throughout the kingdoms of Canuck, Maidenhall, and Moonbrook for more than 100 years. Then, one fateful day, it all came crashing to a terrible halt when the evil sorcerer Hargon called upon the dark gods and attacked the kingdom of Moonbrook. As one of the few to escape the attack, it's your responsibility to stop the sorcerer before he casts a curtain of evil around the world. In the spirit of adventure roleplay titles, this sequel to Dragon Warrior 1 takes you on a long, complex journey throughout the lands of the three kingdoms. Magic, armor, healing potions, etc. are all there to help you. However, it's up to you for you to find them. Action, adventure, magic, what more could you ask? So, what they're saying there is that prologue that we so epically performed for our listeners. Go back and listen to that if you haven't found it in the Dragon Warrior 2 Episode 1 SideQuest episode. But that story where they show you one of the guards, soldiers of Moonbrook, escaping a under duress Moonbrook to go inform the King of Midenhall that this was happening. They're saying that that's you, and that's not you. Yeah, it's definitely not you. And I don't even know how. You could watch that prologue part of the game and infer that maybe if you didn't read any of the text. And that had to be what they did. That's the only way I think you can come, because you're not going to get any of that information from Enix. You're not going to get that information from any of the instructors. Like, none of that is going to be nothing about Moonbrook.
I didn't escape that. Like,
yeah, right, yeah. So they had to have just watched and only half-ass paid attention, and then wrote those paragraphs after the fact. And that is bad. That's bad. These incompetent nitwits. That's really bad journalism. That's really the only thing going on in here, though. None of the NES shit we haven't already discussed, and this issue is out yet. But But there are some interesting coming soons in Tombs and Treasures, the Punisher, and a Taito Indiana Jones game. There's also a TurboGrafx TurboGrafx CD system appearance in here, where they talk about a live-action FMV Sherlock Holmes title that probably blew fucking kids' minds here, talking about actors playing the characters, to do a Sherlock Holmes game, which is not an IP. Sherlock Holmes doesn't do anything for me. It's kind of, it's one of those, exactly. It's like Dick Tracy. It's like, it's a IP for my dad. I'm not interested. Yep. I'm survived that it's survived into modern day iterations, because it's a very antiquated thing in my mind. But Pro News Report comes after that, and right off the rip, they bring up something that lightweight surprised me. The NEC NEC is opening physical locations called Turbo Zones, and they start with one in Daly City, California. They do use the term kiosk, which suggests just a little stand in the hallways, not a legit full-on store in mall terminology, if you're going to split hairs. But it's still kind of surprising to me that NEC was doing physical anything, It's, again,
right?
Never saw it. And Daly City seems like a really random place, but this made me think of, and I only know this because of being in Columbus. You grew up there. You've probably heard this before as well. But I bet Daly City, at least at the time, was one of those cities like Columbus where corporations' focus group data suggests that it's a perfect cross-section of the idyllic American consumer community.
Test market.
Yeah, right. Right, I bet that's what's behind that idea, is that they're perfect for that sort of thing. So,
oh man, great, so great living in a test market. McDonald's pizza, holla if you.
Yeah, you get the first fucking mover advantage on everything. Yeah,
Szechuan sauce at McDonald's. Yes, if you don't know, ask somebody. Let me tell you.
That's great. Ooh. We did not have that stuff up in Oberlin. It took us a while. We got it later. They get into CES shit for TurboGrafx, Genesis, and Game Boy next. And in here they mention Sword of Vermilion has a 110-page hint book, Jay. And after my revelation about the game from the ad earlier, and hearing that they have a legit supporting literature, yes, maybe we have to start including this in the side quest discussion, because those are the elements required to warrant the conversation.
Fair. I mean, you got to have, scary, like I said, that's a lot of literature, but also good that they're supporting literature.
Right. Yep. Give us plenty of time to talk about it all. Update on Galoob versus Nintendo Game Genie injunction case here. The court is hearing an appeal from Galoob. They expect a decision within 60 days. So go get them, Galoob. Fuck Nintendo. Nintendo is realizing a full-size exercise bike peripheral in Japan that connects to the Famicom and utilizes the modem to compare performance rates with users across the country. How crazy is that, Jay? That's like
what?
Spin cycle class in your living room
Nintendo
in 1990. That's crazy, man. And between
that's forward thinking.
Yes, that between this and the banking shit we've talked about on the Genesis, Japan was way more progressive than the U.S. home gaming console users. And yes, bravo to Japan.
Ahead of their time. That's crazy they were thinking about that stuff when we were kids.
Yeah, man. Especially the comparison part in particular. Like, even just the bike is wild enough. The idea of, like, incentivizing you to use it by comparing you to other users is really interesting and yes, forward thinking. They are calling this thing $2,000 in US dollars at the time, and Jay, that's $4,578 in 2023 bucks. No wonder we've never heard of it before.
Right?
Yeah, that's fucking crazy.
No chance.
Yeah, you buy a car, like a dope car. You buy a dope ass car. I remember, this is 1990. I remember thinking about buying a 1976 Stingray. Do you remember in Columbus? There's that store on the north side of town it was near the place where Rosenbaum got his alligator, the Captive Born Reptiles. It was called. Do you remember that?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, so that was on like 270 up by one of those towns on the north side of town, and not northeast maybe, whatever the case. But right across the street from that, or very close to that, was this old car store that I noticed when we were there buying fucking snakes or something, or Rosenbaum's alligator, and they had that's the car. Like I'm not really a car guy, so this is a little misleading to talk about this, but if I were to buy a classic car, I want a 1976 Stingray with T-tops. So a 76 Corvette, which is the really, really curvy Corvette model, and then T-tops, not convertible T-top. So that where you take the hard shell comes off the windows, and that's my dream classic car if I were to get one. And I remember them being $10,000, and I was fortunate enough to have some life insurance money from my mom died, and my dad getting in a car accident when I was a kid. So in college I had a little bit of dough, and I had not enough really to be thinking about this, particularly a second car, you moron. But it's the epitome of a 20-year-old child considering financial decisions. I thought about, because it was only $10,000 to buy one in what would have been like 2002 or something, right? So almost a decade later, you could get a Stingray that's almost 30 years old in like perfect condition for $10,000. And in 1990, $5,000 had to have gotten you the same thing. So, like the idea that you could get that or an exercise bike for your Nintendo. Like, that's fucking nuts, man.
That's crazy. Even the most like athletic-minded triathlon dude. Like, I'm thinking about somebody like my brother who does like Ironman, and they're in the biking and they legit spend like 10K or more on their bikes. I'm like, maybe somebody like that who was like, who's very wealthy, but then even if you did that to switch up your routine, that's a lot of money. You want to be outdoors. That does not help you to be sitting inside connected. Like who's the market for here?
I just don't know, man. You get what it is. It's one of those things. Yeah, clearly a luxury purchase, but it's the kind of person. It's like me with VR. It's like I'll try anything because it's so like just the technology is so fascinating to me that like I want to try the things that even maybe no one else wants to try.
You're like, what's the purpose of this? Like, this is cool, but like, why?
Right, exactly. And that's exactly what I think the target demo for that is. Just someone who's just fascinated by these video game things that are coming out, So we have another wild one. The NES Color handheld from BDL Enterprises is mentioned here. And this is funny to me to see it right now because the Gaming Historian and by just I mean like maybe a week ago, released a short doc about this that I posted on our socials. And if you don't know the Gaming Historian, he's like a huge huge YouTube guy that does really, really smart, in-depth gaming console research documentaries. And so this thing was had a 4-inch color screen, and you can put actual NES carts in it. So it's a handheld, but it actually uses real NES cartridges. So needless to say, it's large by handheld standards, but it's basically the size of a cartridge. They did an amazing job of making it as compact as you possibly could and still be able to put an NES cartridge in. So that was smart engineering, I think. And this runs on 4C batteries. So that's heavy as fuck. I think.
You're just like propping it up on the table.
Yeah, it'd be so heavy to hold in your hand for a long period of time. The link is in the show notes to the doc, but it was interesting because the reason it never came to be, the guy, I forget what he did. He had some sort of connection, some sort of thing that he did that had him close enough to Nintendo to be able to pitch it to them as a thing. Mm-hmm. And the NES or Nintendo shot it down because they just didn't want to. They had the Game Boy. They didn't want to compete with the Game Boy, which is what this would have done, I think. But the reason they cited to him which it's mentioned in here, the exact verbiage, which is probably where the gaming historian got this, was this exact fucking piece of copy we're looking at here in the mag. But they cited that it was it conflicted with their marketing plan, which again that plays right into, we'll sell less Game Boys, cannibalize sales, So we don't even though it's a great idea, good job, we don't want to do it. So bummer, because this would have been, can you imagine like
taking your actual NES games on the go?
Fucking dope. A couple pages later, we get that proto GameFly company, the Game Service. They're still rocking and rolling with a full page ad now. They're not just doing little sections of a page, so they must be flourishing, And I don't ever recall them offering Genesis or TurboGrafx 16 titles previously. So again, I think they're growing. And it's $10 more tacked onto the $100 annual fee for the NES to do Genesis or TurboGrafx 16, but I think that's probably fair for another 8 bits, in my opinion. And yeah, I can't believe this has lasted that long, man. And that if it's lasted this long, enough people must have used it and gotten pieces of fucking shit in the mail that would have been still lying around and people posting. The idea that I can find nothing about it on the interwebs is shocking to me, man. It's really shocking to me. And I don't know, good for them. I mean, it is a brilliant idea. We've talked about how smart of a business decision it was at the time. Nothing even vaguely kind of competing with it. And it's also revealed in this copy, I noticed, that they say we also sell video games, but we do this too. And that has a feeling to me that what they were prior to coming up with this brilliant idea was just a mom and pop game rental shop. Or game resale shop, I should say. Maybe rental too. But either way, it's so smart to just, because they don't even say in here, they don't tell you what game you're getting. You don't get to choose. They just send you one. So this resale shop that just has piles of games sitting around and they can't move. They're just grabbing a game and stuffing it in.
Great idea.
They're just stuffing the random things in their fucking back room into an envelope and mailing it to you, and you have no agency over what that might be showing up. That is just brilliant. But you have no competitor, so you don't have to improve the quality of your game selection choices. You're the only one offering this. So it's just. That is a documentary that I need to have. Talking to these guys, finding out who came up with this company and talking to them about the inciting. That's a fantastic Business Insider mini thing. Just how they cooked up this little bootstrap startup and how it went for the first 6 months or whatever is probably a really fascinating business story. As far as those go, not quite. Thanks, bro, or anything, but smart.
I mean, nothing's thanks, bro.
Right, nothing's thanks, bro. My unscalable business idea. A solid clacks for Genesis back cover ad wraps shit up, and GamePro 15 is in the ISOH books.
Battle 1 theme from Street Fighter 2010, the final fight on the NES. Bringing us, of course, to the nomination section. Josh, I believe you were first this time, as I went first the last time. But
I think you're correct.
Yes. Very
okay.
interesting.
I have 5 this time because I'm the boss. I'm the boss of me. No one's the boss of me but me. I can do whatever I want.
Let's get crazy.
So I have Shadow of the Ninja as very little suspense in that choice. Yeah. Castlevania 3, also very little suspense probably. Maniac Mansion.
Interesting.
We again, it's so fringe to me whether it's right for. It's I don't know what I posted about it, but I was bullshitting with one of the disciples on the Facebook page about Rygar. Oh, it's when I posted the list about things that should be on our side quest list, and kind of fielded anything that I might have missed, And one of the suggestions was Metler, I think, was listed off a whole bunch of things, and one of them was Rygar, and I'm like, you know what, like that, yes. I really appreciate Rygar's place in the timeline, which is very early. It's a very, very early NES game, and there's I think it's too complex for a game episode, which is why we probably didn't get far on game ep in any of the potential times it's been brought up. I don't even know if that's the case. We're quite a few episodes in now. But it's also not quite enough for a side quest. And like the Maniac Mansion is kind of right there for me too. It's like, I don't know. One, it'll be, the whole game is founded on the idea of how many paths you can take. So like, there's just no way we're going to talk about the way we kind of canvas every corner of a game in our game eps. We can't do that for that. So that's not possible. But, fuck it. Like, who cares? That doesn't matter. I've said before, with the idea of trying to limit what games we do because we don't have a format that has done that
works,
yet. That's a stupid reason not to talk about a game. But so we're just going to be talking about our own plays, which is there'll be plenty to talk about, But it will just be interesting how we do it, and I just, especially because you have never played it, I would just love to hear about your frustrations in that kind of game. I think would make for really good podcasting, because it is a whole lot of just fence testing and like trying to jam two items together in your inventory, hoping they turn into something. Like, there's a lot of that shit in there, but it's so fun and cool. It's like, it's the same idea as caveman games, only there is a good game underneath. That, like, the wrapper that it's in is just fucking amazingly fun and creative. So it will be a blast, I think, to talk about. But yeah, I don't know. It's in this limbo that I'm not sure. So there's that. And then I also got a weird hair at my ass, Jay, when I saw it, but Wall Street Kid on NES. And hear me out. Hear me out, bro. Hear me out. It would be an experiment unlike any previous game app. And with our finance degree bullshit, Jay, I bet we could have an absolute fucking blast with this material. I know it's a terrible game. Like, I know we're not going to have fun playing the game, but I think we could have a lot of fun in talking about it. You know what I mean? I think, yeah, it's important to stress that in this proposal.
Delineation.
Yeah, because the game sucks totally, but I think we could really have some fun with all the bullshit in it, and that is an interesting and appealing idea. Yeah, and then the last one, Super Mario Bros. 3. It briefly appeared in the Ask the Pros, and we haven't done it yet, and it's Super Mario Bros. 3. So eventually we have to. So those are my 5.
Gosh.
What do you got for us, Jay?
That's a spicy 5. Very interesting 5, I'll say. So there will be some overlap. My list, there are a lot of things I considered. With a lot of repeats, I considered using this as like an entirely repeat list, but there are a couple notable new ones, I guess. So first and foremost, Shadow of the Ninja. Ninja options, give them to me. Second was Puss in Boots. As a
all the shit in this issue. How the fuck did that make me list?
Dude, like I said, as a possibility. And so there were 4. I had two more that I was like, all right, maybe. Super Mario Brothers 3, because I was like, it's Mario 3. Like, I pick it up and play it all the time. Like, I don't know, put it in that. And then more seriously, Conquest of the Crystal Palace.
Okay, I can hear Conquest of the Crystal Palace for sure. I didn't list it, but I can hear it. Okay.
Definitely
so yes.
Ninja options, clearly.
So yeah. So Ninja options is no question some overlap. Super Mario Bros. 3 is some overlap. I always want to I feel like. I almost feel like Super Mario Bros. 3 should happen outside our timeline. I feel like we should do. I don't want to call it a side quest, but we clearly got to use the Super Mario Bros. 3 strategy guide in our game app, even though. That's not how we do. Like, it's like, I guess what I'm saying here is if we do it as a normal game app, it's not supposed to have this like hardcore company mag that we're talking about constantly while we do it. But I feel like Super Mario Bros. 3 warrants that level of attention, and that strategy guide warrants that level of attention. So I almost feel like we should do Super Mario Bros. 3 in the same way we do Random Rags episodes, where it doesn't have anything to do with our timeline. We don't have to worry about it.
It's just a random side episode.
Yeah, and I almost feel like we should do that and not and take these opportunities to do these games like Shadow of the Ninja that I don't expect to pop up nearly as frequently, you know. So I almost want to say Super Mario Bros. 3, and we've never posed that specifically in that way, but we should maybe just put that on our kind of semi-immediate to do. Because I've been trying to think of I've been trying to think of a Random Rags episode recently. Anyways, I almost saw when I saw the Gaming Foundation thing. What drew me to that was a tweet about an issue that someone got from that. And it was a magazine I'd never seen before. That was from like in 1989 or 1990 or something that they sent out to them. It was the first episode or first issue of that magazine. So I need to actually write that down on my list too.
See, I mean that's the thing. Like this is something I never seriously proposed Mario 3 to your point, because it's like I've played it, I've beat it many times, I've beat it recently. Like it's that good of a game. Same thing with Super Mario World. Like I could play them happily, devote a whole episode. We gotta talk about the wizard, we gotta talk about everything else going on at the time, all that kind of stuff, you know.
Yep. We could call it we could drop that into the Kill Quest bucket, because it's what I think of with those, like I did that with Metroid, I did it with Guardian Legend.
And you never beat it yet, right?
Super Mario 3, no, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's
right.
So that's,
I
forgot all about that. That just gets me. I'm gonna step on the soapbox right now.
yeah, but you can drop it into that bucket, because the idea with Kill Quest and that name for those types of games are games that I just don't think. Again, they kind of happen in this limbo. Like maybe Maniac Mansion fits into this too, but those are more about. And I didn't do episodes on those. I just fucking those are just things I streamed and. I just wanted to check off my list, which it kind of would be doing that because we never beat it, or I never beat Mario 3. But yeah, the idea there is that just these games that need to, yes, be checked off the list, but I don't know if it'll ever happen in our timeline, and that that kind of fits into that bucket very, very neatly. So yeah, maybe we'll figure out a way to do that recently or in the near future too. Perhaps
pains my retro heart that you have not beaten that game. It just hurt like
It's hard, man. The fucking 8th level sucks.
Dude.
I tried many times. I've tried. It's not from a lack of effort, Jay. I assure you. The 8th level.
Let me take you under my wing. Let me.
I may have to jump on a boss battle stream and have you fucking coach me through it, man. I'll get you and Alan, probably both. You and Al have to jump on and give me tips, because I've tried many a times and I could not get through it. Even with I'll load up. I mean, I've never game genied or cheated or anything with it, but I have certainly just loaded up on power-ups and then warp whistled my ass there, and I can't get through it. Can't get through it.
Right. I got you.
Word. Okay, so let's cross that off the list then, and then we're just talking about what then? Shadow of the Ninja, Castlevania 3 here is also still here. The Wall Street Kid, crazy-ass idea. You didn't sound terribly supportive of that, but...
It could be fun.
Yeah.
It could be fun.
But so the obvious one is Shadow of the Ninja, for obvious reasons, overlap and ninja options and all the shit, and it looked fucking absolutely incredible, and the response to it seemed incredible, so I just think we'd have a blast with that. There'd be no downside to it, but that's not always the reason to do a video or do a game. And it's so good that maybe we will see it again, so maybe we don't need to have the fear of it not reappearing. It just dropped, so it'll have to appear at least one other time.
It's 2-player, right?
Is it 2-player?
Yes.
Oh yeah, because the 2, because yes. Fuck, it's not simultaneous, is it?
I don't know. I did not investigate that, but if it is,
play the elevator music. Obviously, if it's 2-player, we got to do it. Just
it's
100%
shit.
Yeah,
that goes without saying. There's couch co-op options. They're like ninja options.
Yeah, you can't pass them up if they're there.
There are 2 ninjas. They're running, and they're fighting side by side, simultaneously
on screen.
There is a life bar at the top. There's a life bar at the bottom. They are color coded by ninja. One purple, one peach, salmon.
Well,
perhaps.
I think that might settle it then. I think we might have to do that just to couch co-op it.
Co-op ninjas options. Let's go.
Okay. Couch co-op ninjas. Shadow of the Ninja on the NES will be our next game episode. That will be a blast. So after we do that, we will then flip back to Nintendo Mag-Up action with Nintendo Power Issue 18. You can subscribe to the pod on the platform provided, whatever dumbass company that serves up your pottery. Please rate and leave positive shit for the pod on whatever platform you listen to if you enjoy our nonsense. The website is nyehentertainment.com/ISOHpod. You can email us directly at isohpodcast@gmail.com to tell us we're doing this all wrong. Follow the pod and match with us on the Facebook page, the Instagram. Jab's got an Instagram now, even though he's not actually physically behind it, but I'll get him there. I don't think there's anything I'm more proud of in my creative backlog than coming up with his bio of peanut butter Captain Crunch is better than than Crunchberry Captain Crunch. There's that, and I guess it's hard to appreciate that, not knowing Jab personally for an entire lifetime, but that is an integral part to the fiber of Jab's being. It is the perfect bio for him, even though he wouldn't have known it or probably ever thought of it himself. That's great. So we're working on getting him out of the internet, so that's there now. You can follow him, and I'll basically just be posting whenever he drops shit into the chat that I deem worthy. I'm just going to amalgamate that into, not amalgamate it, I'm going to directly post it. Even syntax, everything. Like if he doesn't use punctuation, I'm not correcting it. It's just going to be stream of consciousness Jab shit is going to go into that Instagram feed. And that's just so amazing that that's happening in like this detached, I don't know. There's something about that. That's a beautiful thing. This person that doesn't want to be on the internet, but their shit's getting to the internet anyways, exactly as it's coming out of his head, is just an incredible thing to me, especially because it's Jab. So that's happening. A little pet social project that I'm doing, a social experiment that I'm doing, and the subreddit's out there as well. Occasionally posting that these days, and our gameplay videos are on the YouTube. The links to all that is in the show notes. I got to change the show notes to include his Instagram now too. I got to update that. Oh. Another thing for my list. My list is so long. Look how long my list is for this episode. How do I get that to appear on the screen there? There you go. All my to-dos. We don't have a Patreon, but if you like giving the money things podcasters tell you to, and would like to do so to our direction, the Able Gamers Foundation creates custom gaming rigs for gamers with disabilities, and that is cool as fuck. AbleGamers.org is where you can find them. T-shirts are on the website. They're dope, and proceeds on those after pod expenses go to Able Gamers. I'm rocking one right now. And Jay, what are your socials?
Gentleman JB without the second E is where you can find me on Instagram, Facebook. It's my gamer tag. So reach out. Let me know you're an actual person, not a bot, and let's game.
Word. I am on Instagram, and my shift key is broke. I'm on Twitter at Josh Folan. My Oculus game tag is my shift key is broke as well. And you can kind of find me right now on Xbox at 2 Minute Todd because I'm playing all that Divinity Sin.
There you go.
Which I saw you jump on last night while we were playing, actually.
See,
Gentleman JV is online. That's going well. Hey, I didn't mention that in my now playing. That's still going really well. The
nice
questing our asses off. I think we're almost back to where we got stuck or fell off last time. So pretty soon, I think I'm going to be playing a new game there, and that's pretty exciting and fun. So that's that. Okay, bye.